Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the show. Happy Friday night. Ready to talk some Knicks with my man Dan FAVALE from Hardwood Knocks and Bleacher Report. Dan, it's a pleasure to have you back on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, no doubt. Crazy time of year for the season for you. You're writing some big stuff with the trade talk. The New York Knicks had a big statement win last night on national TV. And the last time we had you on was very early in the season. A lot's happened since then. But what were your initial thoughts from last night's big win?
Uh, I, it was impressive. I mean, like you obviously get lucky with the Jalen Brown missing those free throws at the end, but we've seen the Knicks kind of be on the wrong end of those situations in crunch time as well. And I thought it was I mean, Julius Randle's shot making for most of that game was absolutely absurd. A lot of encouraging signs too. I think down the stretch when you're looking at RJ doesn't have like the best night, but he gets off that big corner three fairly quickly, and it goes in. I did have some questions about maybe some of the shot selection down the stretch for them, but I think like that's just to beat the Celtics. That's just even though they don't have Marcus Smart, like you didn't have Mitchell Robinson. That's just a monster win for them, and I think it's proof that this team is definitely a lot better than they were when we talked a couple months ago, and the offense is genuinely scary. There's some really like structural issues when I look at like keeping RJ Barrett involved consistently, where it feels like he's constantly, not constantly, but too often out of rhythm. And then that can come back to bite him when he's trying to run some lineups with a little bit more, solo time, so to speak. But like they're up to seventh, I think, in points scored per possession now on the season. And so, like, that's clearly their identity. It looked like they were going to defend with more freneticness for a minute. That fell off. It'll be tough to, I think, recapture some of
Mm.
that so long as Mitchell Robinson is out. But I think this team kind of understands who it is in the sense of who its best players are, who its best combinations are for the most part. They're still trying to figure things out in the front court, it does seem like. But to see Julius Randle specifically and then Jalen Brunson maintain their levels of play, that's big for a team that is not guaranteed a top six spot in the East, as you and I were talking about off air. But you can at least envision a
Mm.
scenario where it's like, well, do they finish ahead of, let's say, Miami in the standings and get to six while keeping Atlanta at bay? And I wouldn't rule it out. I don't know that I would predict it, but that's night and day the tenor from where we were talking a few months back.
Yeah, even before the season began, I felt this team would finish stronger than the start, which is going to be interesting to see because we know they have the toughest schedule or the second toughest schedule. And like you said, the Heat play tonight, and the Knicks are half a game back. Knicks are now 27 and 23 on the season in the seventh spot. I feel like yeah, you hit the nail, Dan, with the team knowing their roles now. I think the most impressive thing is the way Brunson and Randall have seamlessly played off of each other. I think for the year, considering it's just over half a season, you could look like those two have been playing together for longer than that. And Emmanuel Quickley's growth right before our eyes. It does seem like RJ Barrett's shooting efficiency is starting to pick things up. And it's definitely, the setback with Mitch is definitely the latest in what's been a roller coaster season. But last night was really impressive, with Jericho stepping up and Isaiah Hartenstein probably stringing together two of his best games.
Just in time for the trade deadline with him too. And that's what's,
Yep.
I thought he was one of the best signings of the offseason, but when you look at how they use him on offense, this doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term fit for him. I don't know if you just move him to get rid of that final year on his deal, if there's a team that'll take him into a trade exception like Denver and will send you back a second round pick or something. Because also the part of this is Jericho Sims is like, yeah, he's not as dynamic on the offensive end, but you're not asking your bigs aside from Julius Randle. Like you're not even asking Obi Toppin to be all that dynamic on the offensive end. So but yeah, you're right. Hartenstein having like two, like stringing together some really good games is, I don't know if it complicates things for the Knicks moving forward or if it just makes it maybe a little bit easier. But if your primary goal is to just navigate the Mitchell Robinson absence, the games that you got from your centers last night specifically, and your bigs, I mean, just Julius Randle and even like the Obi Toppin spurts, like that ends up being like a big deal.
Yeah, great growth as well for Sims. Managing to stay out of foul trouble as well. I think he's looks like he's being a bit more cognizant of not picking up fouls. He's not committing as much as he was earlier in the season. But yeah, Julius Randle uh, showcasing to the national media that he's deserving of that All-Star situation. And, I feel like he's having a better season than the one 2 years ago. Do you agree with that?
I don't know because he was unreal defensively that year from his
Mm,
perspective, and he definitely has not even come close to matching that, in my opinion. But I think it's more encouraging on offense because he is playing um, as part of a larger ecosystem right now, which is more valuable in the bigger context
mm,
of the Knicks. And also just like the shot making, because like his three ball hasn't been like astronomically out of control. It's more so just something that you could see as a normalization. And so that's encouraging that he's playing at this high of a level offensively while his role being, being forced to make quicker decisions, play off the ball a little bit more, change some of his usage, even though the meat and potatoes of it is still there. I think that that's super encouraging if you view him as someone who is going to be even if not a directional star for this team, one of your, two or three most important players moving forward. If he's not going to be your most important player, you need him to fit in to a larger ecosystem. And I think while the Knicks offense is not like so diverse right now that it's this huge, there's this huge diversification portfolio, but the fact that he's playing off Jalen Brunson so well, and also just like I think making quicker decisions in general more like there's still the Julius Randle that like we've
mm.
seen over the past 2 years is definitely in there. But there's less of the lows definitely and the questionable decision making that we saw for most of last year. And so offensively, I think that this year's been more encouraging just because the circumstances under which he's producing. But I don't know if anything's going to match like that,
Yeah.
2020, 2021 season was just absolutely mind melting.
Yeah, we sort of that was the year where the ascendancy was just skyrocketing. Whereas this season, we know what Randall's capable of. Just many doubted whether he could replicate that again. But I feel like Randall has upside with his understanding, processing of the game. 27, 28 years old. Some guys don't reach their mental prime in the game until closer to 30, He's starting to see more double teams more often now. And I feel like, there's an area where he can, uh, you know, um, get better at with processing the game.
Yeah, and like I said, that ends up being like a big deal when you want to flesh out the rest of your roster moving forward because it shows that he's capable of complementing other guys more than he did even during his most improved player season because everything was just he was so central to everything. And he's still very central. He's just not the entire nervous system of the offense anymore because of Jalen Brunson.
Mm. Yeah, rebounding's going to another level as well. In the clutch win, points in the paint. The Knicks won last night, 48-42. Fast break points was 13-17, so they lost that, but was close. I think the Knicks hung in last night in that first quarter when it looked like the Celtics typically would normally put their foot on the Knicks' throat. The fact that Tibbs played Randle and Brunson the whole quarter kept the Knicks in it, and you could say what you want about the minutes police, but I think that was the early move that got the Knicks feeling like they could pull that one out.
Yeah, I mean, if that game had just like so many ups and downs, it looked like the Knicks were going to pull away like a bunch of times. Later
Yeah,
in that game as well, and then Boston was able to claw their way back, and New York had some questionable decision making. But yeah, I would agree with you there. And I think the way that specifically Julius Randle was kind of used at the beginning of the game, it made it a little bit easier to play him that much down the stretch through the fourth quarter and
mm,
overtime.
yeah. Another stat I want to get your thoughts on, Dan, is what do you make of the Knicks having a 15-10 record on the road and a 12-13 record at home?
I don't know that I make too much of it. I mean, I think unless I'm just mistaken, I feel like some of those their schedule might have been a little bit home heavier at the beginning of the season. I've not come
Mm,
back to look at that, and so that's when they were just going through a bunch of stuff, as we know, and so it's taken them a while to figure it out. And then you look at the quality of the opponents that they faced on the road that might have benefited them. I have not dug too
mm.
deep into why the splits are necessarily like they are, but that is like you definitely don't expect to see that. But I would guess my guess is that it's probably just that early season noise from how much they struggled at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's some areas to look into that with the stats, but Emmanuel Quickley's now in a position where I feel like you could legitimately make an argument that he's one of the best six men in the league at the moment. What have you made of IQ's recent play, two-way potential?
Yeah, I mean, look, he looks fantastic when the three ball specifically is falling, and lately, since like the turn of the calendar, he's done a good job like hitting his looks inside the arc too. I think his defense is still nationally one of the most underrated things about him. If you're going to look at his screen
Yeah,
navigation or just his ability not to give up on plays from behind, and so yeah, he is super valuable, and I think it seems like the tone or impression of him within the organization has changed because I don't play stock in every report that comes out, but he was kind of available at the beginning of the year, and now it's like, oh no,
yeah,
they're rebuffing offers for him at the moment, and that's smart. Is that you do rebuff offers for him because he fits into Obi's the question you really have to ask yourself. Manuel quickly fits in here like a glove, and so he'll be extension eligible over the summer, and the way that he is, the year he's having, and then just depending on how he closes it. That's going to be a fascinating discussion to see if the Knicks don't traditionally extend their guys, but they did just do it with RJ. So maybe there's something to be worked out there with IQ. But he's been absolutely huge. And I think what's most encouraging about his season is like he's had some really offensive low points, and yet that defensive impact and aggression has been pretty much a constant.
yeah. The pressure, and I mean, 22 years of age now, coming up to that contract year or extension year, which is big. A lot of players do pop on that year. There's no secret about that. But yeah, Quickly's for me, the decision making's been unbelievable. The shot selection's gotten better. He's not just going to that floater straight away. He's keeping the dribble alive, probing, keeping that dribble tighter, and that's opened up his game more as that floor general. Um, as we continue to talk about the big win last night and the road ahead with some trade talk tonight, welcome into the chat, everyone out here. Salute. And I'm with Dan FAVALE from the Hardwood Knocks podcast, writes for Bleacher Report as well. Give him a follow. Amazing work all season long. And the trade buzz is coming up, Dan. But before we talk about that, I also want to hit on your thoughts about the bench situation when Tibbs did decrease the rotation, and the Knicks did look gassed for that. It was the schedule which wasn't kind as well. But what are your thoughts on that being sustainable for the rest of the season? And do you think upgrades are imminent?
I don't think it's sustainable. I do think when you look at the roster, like some of the decisions he's made, I think is probably understandable when when he tightens things up and you weren't getting necessarily bankable minutes from Hartenstein. You've kind of just punted on Evan Fournier for most of this season. I get like, and then having the Obi Toppin injury caked into that as well. I think that provided this like natural opportunity for him to shrink the rotation. But I think when you look at it as like, all right, well, there's clearly six guys that they trust or whatever it is on this roster, maybe seven if you're really going to stretch it. You don't want your rotation to be that short before the playoffs because you want that if you're going to shrink it down to seven or eight, like that's what you want. And so
Yep.
I don't know what they're going to do with the trade deadline, but I think that it would behoove them to get another body who fits into there because I think he could come from a variety of positions at this point. But I think if it's someone who very much slots into, oh, he's a top eight player on our team and we can rely on him for those regular minutes, that would do a ton to alleviate. I'm specifically probably looking at like some of the perimeter rotation, just because you do have so many front court options now that you should be able to monitor minutes more effectively there. That's what I would do if I were them, but it's tough to get a pulse on what they're actually going to do because right now, like the only noise you really hear about them is they're going to eventually move Cam Reddish probably for some combination of seconds, and that's most likely not going to be a deal that gets you a
Mm.
top eight guy in your rotation.
Yeah. The fascinating thing, Dan, is the protected picks that the Knicks have. 6, 7 picks total out of the next 3 years. The Dallas one is the most fascinating one this year because Dallas could go anywhere. That pick is currently in 17th, and Dallas are in 6th or 7th, and they could be an upgrade away from getting good or an injury away from going even further down. What do you make of the dynamic with the picks available? I feel like the Knicks would be willing to part with some of these protected picks to make maybe a middling upgrade.
Yeah, I think they would, and I don't want to say that I think they should, but I think it's easy to just because there's a chance when you look at the Detroit and Washington pick specifically, I would guess that at least one of those never conveys as a first. And so like that, they're kind of shiny in the sense like, well, look how loosely they get a little bit looser as time goes on. But like you
Mm.
said, you have the Mavericks and your own picks, so you know you're going to have those picks this year. And so if it's something like The deals that I've been sort of floating around for them when discussing them is I think if I had to identify a biggest need, and I know that there's a lot of stuff you can say about defense, I think it's if they can get someone who's not going to torpedo their defense, but is also going to give them just like reliable, raw, uninhibited 3-point volume and shot making to play off of others and like functional shooting. Like, could they fire off the move or just get off shots a little bit quicker than you're seeing from RJ or even Quentin Grimes at certain points? If you can target a player like that and you're willing to include a first round pick, and maybe are you getting off Evan Fournier as part of that deal or using Derrick Rose's expiring contract? Is it a situation where I think a lot of people have been adamant, well, we're not going to use a first round pick to get off Evan Fournier, but if you're
Mm.
giving up, let's say Obi, one of those picks, let's say the least favorable of the Dallas or New York's pick this year, whichever one's worse. If you're giving up that plus Obi and then Fournier, so you're getting off his money for last year for a player that, whether they're on the books or not, moving forward, is actively going to help you and be a part of your top 8 rotation. I think that's the type of deal that they should target, just because we all know that they've been sort of stockpiling assets for a bigger trade. That landscape, as far as I know, at the moment, just doesn't exist, and those moves are
Yeah.
very hard to make midseason anyway. As we just saw over the summer, they typically happen during the offseason.
Yeah, and there's worries about the inflation around the league, Dan and chat. You know, teams can leak whatever they like, and it remains to be seen whether that happens. But uh, above average role players and things like that, commanding 2 first round picks, 3 first round picks, um, things have changed around the league, I feel.
Yeah, and it's going to have to normalize at some point because two things that we have seen is just some teams trading so many of their picks that they don't have any. And then sometimes it doesn't work out. Look at what's happening in Minnesota right now. They're playing a little bit better,
Yeah.
but like that was just that looks like a terrible trade for them right now. Then the other thing that we've seen is, and the Knicks are in possession of two of these, I call them problem picks. These teams are giving out fairly to moderately protected first round picks, but they're protected for so long that it limits their flexibility to guarantee first in future trades, like Washington and Detroit, or one of the worst ones I've seen is the Portland pick, which is lottery protected to Chicago until 2028. So they theoretically can't guarantee a first round pick in a trade. You can say first allowable, but there's no guarantee. That's going to turn a lot of teams off. And so I'm waiting on the normalization of the market where it's who's going to be the first team that winds up trading a noteworthy player and they're not getting that Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, even DeJounte Murray type haul, because that's what's so interesting here is Rudy Gobert was considered, has not been this season when he's been healthy, but was considered a transcendent player. DeJounte Murray
Mm.
is really good. He made the All-Star team as injury reserve last year. He was never this like transcendent, prolific player, and he still went for that many first round picks. So there's going to have to be a course correction. I just don't know when it's going to come. And I think that's going to invariably slow down bigger deals. We will still see transactions
Yeah.
because so many teams are interested in them and need to make upgrades. But I'm just wondering if it's going to take some pearl clutching or it's going to take a while for owners, let's say, to, when they're talking to their GMs or their front office execs to not be able to point at, well, if Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert got this, why can't you get this for so and so if we're selling them off? And so I think that's going to be a roadblock for a little bit when it comes to blockbuster deals, but there's going to have to be a course correction at some point because the current asking price and then again the protections that we were just talking about, like that status quo is untenable.
Yeah, I agree. Around the league, it's going to take desperation for things to really come to a head, and also a generational draft coming up. But one concern I've got is the pick swaps. There's only so many picks teams have, but then they can negotiate more of these pick swaps, and then you could still own a team's rights to swap as well, which is going to be insane. Coming up, and we'll continue to talk about some names that the Knicks could look at. But I just want to get your thoughts on the Knicks starting 5 as well, Dan. Quentin Grimes' season, RJ Barrett season so far. How have you seen that? And also Jalen Brunson fitting in.
Yeah, I mean the Jalen Brunson fit has just been it's been gravy for the most part. And I think he's shooting like 45+% from three since the turn of the calendar too. And so he's been great to have that game manager overall, but also
Mm.
later in games. And I think Quentin Grimes, I've been mostly encouraged from what I've seen, the defensive energy that he can bring. The shot feels like it comes and goes. Sometimes it feels like he's too hesitant to take them. At the same time, we have to remember that he is, while he might be older for a sophomore, he's 22 and he's a sophomore, and so his game I think will grow. I'm encouraged by what he can do when putting the ball on the floor in space. I don't know if he'll ever be someone who can navigate traffic all that well, but that again, it's still just year two for him. RJ, I don't know, man. I'm a pretty big RJ believer, and I'm just wondering if like right now the offense isn't set up for him to be this constant. But I do think it helps that when you look at his splits on
Mm.
assisted three pointers and assisted jumpers, those seem to be like pretty favorably tracking upward last time I checked, and that might end up being the role that he has to play as more complementary offensive player. And if you want him to be more than that, you might have to figure out a way to expand his time with sort of the bench heavy units as like the independent ball handler, or the let's say the lead ball handler. And I think the thing with him there though is when you are playing with when you're starting games and you have Jalen Brunson and you have Julius Randle, when you're sometimes going possessions without your own sort of touches, even if you want to lead bench units, you could be out of rhythm by that point. And so that's going to be an interesting balancing act, I think, to monitor moving forward. I would like to say like his defense feels like it's regressed this year a bunch too,
Mm.
and so that's something to absolutely watch. I still there's hope for him, and I think the big thing right now is that okay, he's shown that he can kind of be more of a complementary offensive player rather than someone who needs to be a quasi focal
Mm.
point. But it's still just like so much about him is TBD. And you don't necessarily like to say that for someone who's in year four and has already signed a nine-figure extension.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the number I had no issue with, and I think, he definitely has the ability to outplay that contract. But like you said, the concerning thing for me personally, and I'm a big RJ supporter, and I think he can become that second, third option on a championship team throughout his career. But the defense, you know, fans have been seeing it, some regression. Do you think it has anything to do with his playing weight? He struggles getting around the picks, or do you think it's to do with the position, playing the three?
That's a great question. I don't know if it. I mean, like the thing you mentioned about the screens is definitely noticeable. I've never thought about tying that to like what his playing weight is at the moment, so maybe that could
Mm,
be an issue there. I do think he's
yeah,
kind of had like some of the Julius Randle syndrome too, where the closeouts could just be a little bit better. So I'm not. It's just we've seen him defend at a higher level for a long period of time, and so I don't know if it's just is him overthinking his offense or trying to figure out how to fit into the offense? Is that complicating the way that he's playing defense right now? Is it just the level of assignments that he's still sometimes tasked with guarding, even though like you're spending more time with Quentin Grimes? I honestly I don't know. I don't know what the specific issue it hit is for him, but I think that like he probably should be specifically matching up against truer wings and bigger guys better than he does now. And for someone who is his size, like
mm,
I don't think he should be as poor at navigating screens or handling screens or reacting to screens as he's been this season.
yeah. I can see so many parts of his game open up, maybe with different coaching, different schemes, different pieces, which is fascinating. I think they could use his size a lot more at the small ball situation. Getting some looks in the mid range, down low. Um, the 3-point shooting's coming along, and coincidentally, I don't know if it had anything to do with the cut finger that he missed time with, but since coming back, he's definitely been more efficient outside of last night. But that clutch gene, that could be something we look forward to seeing with RJ. The big shot against Boston last year, this time, last night as well. He misses those gimmies, and then I still feel confident with him taking that last three ball, late in the game when he's open. How do you feel with RJ taking those shots?
Yeah, I mean those are the shots he needs to hit too. And when you are, if you're going to play off of Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson specifically in the way that they go about operating, the corners can be open a lot of the times. Like those are the threes that you want to see him not, especially when he's that open too. And so that's certainly encouraging. And like that just might end up being his best role in the NBA, but certainly can wind up being his best role on the Knicks. Not just someone who's more standstill than not, but someone who is not just you're not gonna have count on the ball finding you on every single half court possession. And so you need to be able
Yeah,
to stretch the floor, knock down threes without hesitation, and keep taking them even when you're not having a great shooting night, as was the case in against Boston on Thursday.
Yeah, and there's no doubt, Dan, better spacing would, let's say if RJ was on the Bucks with the shooting, the fit with Randle, Brunson, and Mitchell Robinson on the floor, I think there's a certain ceiling RJ could get to on this team, unless his 3-point shooting takes a huge leap. But RJ with a spaced out offense, I think could definitely thrive with more usage, and he's getting more minutes with the bench unit. How do you feel about that?
I think that's good. We've even seen like in past seasons, those units have predominantly been a killer. I think in part, you touched on it just now. Having Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle on the court, like that's not Randle's hit threes, but that's not what you would call like ideal spacing around him. And so it was easier in years past to cobble together lineups that had 3, 4 shooters around RJ. And that might just be the key.
Mm,
If you want to put the ball in his hands more, never mind him being a floor spacer himself, but like that's going to be the best environment for him to operate, and it's just a little bit easier to get to with the bench because you have guys like there's Quickley, there's Obi, who like a big in the front court who's able to space the floor and not play on the ball because Julius Randle can space the floor, but he's going to play on the ball a bunch of times. Technically, Isaiah Hartenstein can space the floor a little bit, even though he's not taking like super high volume three. So I just think it's easier to get to lineups that might better suit RJ as a ball handler when he's playing with the bench. And so long term
mm.
specifically, I think that is the right move.
Yeah. And with Quentin Grimes, the other starting wing, Dan, how have you seen his season so far? Has that changed your opinion on his projections? Do you think he's the long-term, starting wing? Size seems to be his shortcomings at times when he's guarding these elite guys, but no doubt the shot's going to become more consistent. But he had a couple of great open looks last night. I felt like he rushed some of them. What has been your thoughts on Quentin?
Yeah, he does defend bigger than he is, but I do think you already touched upon the issues that he might be their most important wing player moving forward, but he is not sized like a wing player. And that's why RJ is so important because he is that 6'7" dude who can do probably a little bit more with the ball in his hands. But I think what I still question, again, the size on defense, how that will hold up against certain assignments. And I wonder if there's more of like a east-west playmaking
Mm,
element to his offense. I don't know if they ever need to plumb the ladder though. If he's someone who will get up threes and is willing to put the ball on the deck, either to attack closeouts or open space, or just even to keep defenses on their toes, he's shown that he can do that, and I think that that's a harbinger that bodes well for his future in the league.
Yeah, his feel for the game's incredible for his age. He's come in a bit more mature. The passing's there, I feel. The dribble drive. The dunk, I love that last night. That was a great play. Took it strong. He seems to have no fear, Dan, in terms of one of those older school Knicks, Quentin Grimes. Does that show any resemblance to you?
Um, like to a specific player, or just like in
No,
general that
just
he just
yeah,
plays without like sort of a fear, or and yeah, I mean for sure.
yeah.
And he gets after it. I think you see it a lot, when he gets going downhill, of course, but even like on defense, you can see that there's like a tenacity to the way that he likes to play.
Yeah, definitely. And just before we talk about Obi and that intriguing situation, what have you thought of Mitch? And now with him out, what do you feel like the Knicks need to do? Sign a backup, continue to rock with Sims and Hartenstein, play some small ball with Obi? What have been your thoughts with Mitch and now that he's out?
Yeah, he's been I don't know if it's like he's been so good for most of the season. He is mission critical to if you want their defense to function well and to if they're going to rebound well too. So he's been great. Uh I think without him,
Mm,
you're I wouldn't do anything to add to I'm not going out to make a trade to get a temporary backup big. That's not something I would do. If
yeah,
you sign one on the buyout market, because it does seem like Robinson's going to be out for a little while, that's something you could consider. But I would, for the time being, you have Hartenstein. Maybe this is a sign of him playing a little bit better. You have Jericho Sims, who's shown that he can at least give you fairly significant minutes on occasion. And then you mentioned it, and it's something that everyone's been advocating for. Is like just try, especially in the bench units. Then if you're going up against second units for the most part, even if they are true centers or burly centers, like give the Obi Toppin like that set up a shot, and then maybe you're playing RJ at the four in those scenarios. So I would like to see more of that. I very much doubt that we do, just because it's something the Knicks have pretty much skirted since Obi Toppin has come into the league. But I'm not looking to add someone in wake of Mitchell Robinson's absence because he'll be back and just like you've already you have guys on the roster who are capable of playing. So I'm not giving up, even if you're moving one of them, I'm
Yeah.
not giving up assets to fill a hole that only exists temporarily.
Yeah, I think a guy who's unsigned, maybe a waiver wire dude, veteran minimum, who'll be happy to go back to the end of the bench. When did the 10-day contract situation become available? Do you know?
That started, what is it? Isn't it like January or December something it started? So you can sign guys
Yeah,
to a 10-day. Yes.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I would leave it at the moment. Yes, it looked a little shaky earlier on in the first few games with that situation. I think with Sims's most recent performance, you got to give them a little bit of an adjustment period. Having Mitchell Robinson your anchor for most of the season, and then just having him taken out. I think the Knicks have adapted well the last few games, but Cleveland have the trees, so that was a really impressive win to me. But last night, Horford's kind of not that really huge tree either. So I think that played in the Knicks' favor.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, they could do, and I think they've done that to some extent, but like they can
Mm,
do a better job of playing to the front court matchups. And you look at they play Brooklyn on Saturday. That's probably a team that you should consider going smaller with, or I need not even to say smaller because he's not tiny, but like why not try Obi Toppin, or even go Julius Randle at the five for all I care. Play those two together. Just they have a great. If they have Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton, those minutes have gotten better. But they're just not a big team in general, especially with Kevin Durant out as well, who is very important to the way that they were defending. So that would be a team that you look at and say, like, why don't you experiment here a little bit to see if you can downsize against certain matchups? And again, I think they've played matchups since Mitch has been out to some extent, but I think they could go a little bit more extreme. And I would just like to see it because even though the data on it now is not great, the sample is just so small. I don't know how much we can actually glean from it.
yeah, yeah, you hit it with that. Um, Now it brings us to this Obi situation, Dan. It's fascinating. I think it's still a 50-50 chance Obi is traded either this deadline or in the summer. What have you seen from Obi recently, and what do you project might be the best thing forward? And what would you like to see the Knicks do with Obi?
I think Obi's gotten since returning from injury. I think he's gotten progressively more fluid on the offensive end, and the fact that I think he's shooting like over his last 10 games like 45.8% from three last time I checked. So him knocking down the three ball is absolutely huge, and as someone who can get up and down the floor
Mm,
and give you a different cadence to your offense even when he doesn't have the ball, that's a big deal, and he can have an impact. I think what I want for Obi is for him to be able to play a more consistent, higher volume role. And I just don't think that's going to be available to him on the Knicks. And to the Knicks' defense, like when you have Julius Randle and both of these guys are considered one position players, it's tough to sort of balance that. And so with Obi being extension eligible this summer, I would look to move him because it's clear that you're going to be married to Randall because of how good he's been this year. This isn't, a few months ago or even the end of last season where it seemed like everyone wanted
yeah,
the Knicks to move him and steer into Obi or even just go get someone else who could play that spot. And rather than letting this Obi situation leak into next season where he loses value just because he's about to become a free agent and teams won't have a full year of him. You can trade him now when there's a year and a half left on his deal, whatever it is, and he's still cost control technically for a team at that point. And maybe it's to help, improve your perimeter rotation. Maybe it's as part of a bigger trade that does that while getting off the Fournier deal. I think that's the best course of action right now. I don't think it's mandatory to move him because whatever they do with him is not going to turn them into just like this title contending heavyweight. But when you have
yeah.
Julius Randle and you've paid Julius Randle and Julius Randle's playing at the level he is right now, I don't know if there's like I don't know how you could ever think there's going to be more than just this smaller burst sub 20-minute role for Obi Topping moving forward.
Yeah, only because he's made it clear that he's not willing to play him and Randall together more. To me, that would change the situation completely. If there's a future where you'd play them more and you could get Obi up to 22 to 25 minutes regularly,
Yeah.
he'd be a piece I'd be more on the definite side of keeping for at least another year. But now I'm brought back to what you said. You've got to think about as a business not losing all your value. And the Knicks have made some great trades in the past. We've had to say goodbye to some beloved Knicks. was it John Starks helped the Knicks get Latrell Sprewell in, kind of thing. I know it's a completely different situation, different players at the different side of their careers, but yeah, the Indiana one's fascinating. I think a team where Obi would really fit into that team is going to create that interest for that team to want to give us something that's really could help us. You know, could you think of Indiana or another better situation off the top of your head?
Indiana would be a good situation for Obi. I just don't know what they're going to give the Knicks to help them. I don't like the Chris Duarte fit in New York. I don't really understand that.
Yeah,
They do have Cleveland's and Boston's first round picks this year, but you already have two first round picks in this draft. You could technically have if Detroit and Washington's conveys, but they won't. So like those are headed to
yeah,
other years. So I don't like from a perspective of what can they give you back. I don't know how valuable that is. And they're not going to give up one of their own picks. Like that's just not what Indiana does. A team I would still think about. I know they have Larry Markkinen, but Utah, just like we've seen the way that they will run their lineups, they will play five out. So they would definitely play Lowry, Obi at the five. You could also they've played Lowry at the three. You could play Obi with Walker Kessler and Lowry. You could play Obi with Jared Vanderbilt and Larry Markkinen. And so I think Malik Beasley is a player who would be a really nice fit for New York, even though his defense is not necessarily where you'd want it to be, just someone who can give you that sort of 3 point
yep,
bounce. Another team, I guess he doesn't really fit like the mode of what they're trying to do, but he would be fairly interesting to me in Toronto as someone who could space the floor, and he doesn't fit their um, search for an actual center. But like if you then slide Pascal Siakam up to center, and they're playing Scotty Barnes the point center anyway, like you could still play pretty giant while spacing the floor. Is there a deal to be made there where it's like OB and one of those firsts for Gary Trent Jr. and like you're giving up either Derrick Rose or would they take back Evan Fournier? That could be an interesting fit for him. And even just like any team wanting to take a flyer, like if you're a team that's not one oversaturated in the front court and two not necessarily looking to win now, and you have the developmental minutes at your disposal, I think Obi is certainly worth a look if they have valuable players for like the Knicks to take a look at. Like, Charlotte could be interesting because PJ Washington's headed to restricted free agency. If they don't want to pay him, like Obi can kind of slide into there. And him playing next to LaMelo Ball would probably be great for
mm,
for his career. The Spurs like to get up and down the floor right now, and they're clearly rebuilding. Is there any deal to be had there based on any of the players that they have?
yeah,
So I think there's a lot of teams that could at least use or could more so afford to give Obi some of the experimental higher volume reps that at this point, you want to see from him. It's just so tough. That deal invariably has to be bigger unless you're just taking picks back because he doesn't make anything. And so you're not bringing back anything substantial just with him
yeah,
alone.
yeah. You're right. Yeah, you hit the nail with so many things with the teams. I like the fits you said. I think yeah, definitely. I think Phoenix could be another one. They're looking for a power forward. You know.
They're probably looking at Julius Randle
Yeah.
who they were looking at earlier. But yeah, he would be he'd be interesting there. If you have Cam Johnson, I'd probably want someone who's a little bit more interchangeable at the forward spots, which they need someone like Jay Crowder who's just chilling at home and they're paying him to do that. Um, so I don't love his fit in Phoenix just because Cam Johnson and Ayton are there. But there definitely be if you're going to view him if teams consider him just this bench big, which maybe that's what he is, and you're starting Cam Johnson and he's Cam Johnson's backup. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. But then what are you giving up for someone who's like your backup for? And that's where
Yeah.
things just start to get difficult because what are the Suns giving you? Are they going to give you this year's first round pick for Obi? I actually don't think they would. And even if they would, again, we come back to the fact that, well, the Knicks already have multiple picks in this year's draft. And that's what's so tough about a trade. And so I'm wondering if they move him, if it's kind of part of a deal where it's Cam and Obi so that they can take back more money, or it's Derrick Rose and Obi, or like I said, maybe if it's a Fournier deal with Obi.
Yeah, I think where the Knicks dropped the ball for me was just again, I go back to play him being more open to playing him with Randall,
Which
because
is, people, I've said it too, but like at some point, right or wrong, you just have to accept that it's not part of the Knicks calculus. And so it's easy for us to say like those two need to play together more. As long as Tibbs is the coach and it doesn't seem like the front office is mandating it, it's not happening. And so you kind of have to project forward with that context in mind, unless then your response is, well, then they need a new coach to figure this out. And that opens up like a whole different can of worms.
yeah, because Obi's tantalizing potential was at college, college player of the year at the 5. That fleshes out his game, passing, stretching it, like you said, being
Maybe some
mobile,
actual pick and roll at that
yeah,
spot
pick
too.
and
Yeah.
roll. Yeah, you hit, yeah, causing, using his mobility as a mismatch, right? Having him stand in the corner, right? You could have a player of different size standing in the corner as well. And the 3-point ball is the most fascinating part of his game. If I'm a team looking at Obi, I'm like, okay, he's proven he's a young age still. He's proven he can shoot the three. Can he improve incrementally each year throughout his career and become a deadly weapon? So that's something I'm looking at. And a couple more we'll hit on, Dan, quickly. With the schedule coming up now and the Knicks in seventh, with the Heat playing tonight, what do you see for the rest of this season with the second toughest schedule? What would be a success, and what are you predicting?
I think getting into the top 6 would be a success. I do think they're ultimately going to finish in like the 7 or 8 territory, because
Yeah.
having to usurp Miami just feels exceedingly difficult. They haven't had a great season from Kyle Lowry, and they haven't been totally healthy, but that's
Mm,
a team that's starting to find its stride. And ditto for Atlanta when you look at how Trae Young has been playing lately, and so it could even be tough to fend those off. You already mentioned the strength of schedule issue. Does that make this season a success? I would probably be you're better than last year, and so it's successful in that regard.
yeah.
Does getting into the play-in, like, you know, did the ends justify the means at that point? The Jalen Brunson signing was a home run, so it's not about that, but it makes you curious of to ask the question of, okay, well then what's the step forward? What is the step to that next tier to where we're not talking about play-in berths, we're talking about the Knicks maybe being in the top 4 of the East again. How do they get to that point? And that's the question now, and I think it's going to be the question after this season. What I do think is working in their favor is that I don't view, aside from Atlanta, when you look at the teams that are behind them, I don't see another one that's a real threat to leapfrog them. Just Indiana with the Tyrese Halliburton injury, and they're still a team that could make some sort of seller moves at the deadline. If they can't renegotiate and extend Miles Turner, he might get dealt. Washington is just they're hopeless. That, like, Washington is whatever. The Bulls, they're just not. They're so inconsistent, and they're never going to
Yeah.
reach their apex until Lonzo Ball comes back, which it doesn't seem like is going to be this season. And even then, like, they just had some like roster makeup issues that aren't going away. And then, like, the Raptors have a lot of top end talent, so they theoretically, if they don't sell at the deadline, maybe they could make a run. But they're so far back, and they've been so inconsistent, and their defense is just not aligning with what
Yeah.
it's supposed to be when you look at the talent on paper. I think probably because they don't know necessarily how to play anything other than ultra aggressively, and you can't play that way for 48 minutes when your rotation is so thin. So for the Knicks, there, it does feel like their floor is 8 to me. Maybe I'm not giving Indiana enough credit, but that is at least encouraging because it looked like their floor might have
Yeah.
been like 12 at one point.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, 8 to 6. I think it's been a success so far for the future of the organization. Julius Randle's value gone up. Brunson's delivered, in spades. I think Barrett can finish the year better. Grimes showing his future worth as well, and flexibility is still there. But I just wanted to hear what you said about Toronto. I think they're sort of playing it wrong. Me personally, I think they need to play with a little bit more size as well. They're very small. Yes, they're interchangeable. They've all got these 6'8", 6'9" guys, but I think they really miss. Ironically, they miss a guy like Valanciunas in the middle. You know.
Yeah, I think when you look at what you want from them on the glass, what you want from them in terms of rim protection, they could definitely stand to play with more size. The other thing is that they just need more offensive versatility, guys who can operate with the ball
Mm,
at different cadences to where everything just feels so. I don't- It feels so difficult when you're looking at their offense, where they don't have someone who can just generate their own shots very easily while also setting up others. Like maybe Gary Trent Jr. has some really downhill jet fuel, but he's not someone who's going to like make the complicated passes, slow it down, and run pick and roll. So you need that change of pace, a different level of versatility. And a lot of people, this is Raptors fans, I think, have been talking about this for a while because they're so interchangeable. People view that as versatility. And in theory, yes, you're versatile in the sense that you can play all these guys at the same position. That doesn't mean that you're actually that's a versatile play style. That just means that your personnel is interchangeable with how you're trying to play. It doesn't mean that they're fit to play what you need from certain positions or against certain opponents. And I think that's the primary issue that they've run into. And so, yeah, everyone knows that they kind of want a center or to add more size, but they also need like yes, you have Scotty or Fred VanVleet and you have Pascal Siakam. Just right now, none of those guys, and Siakam might make All NBA. None of them is just like this very like none of them is Jalen Brunson at this point when you look
Yeah,
at the combination of playmaking and scoring. And you could at any given point, I do think Van Vliet, when you're like, could be better than Jalen Brunson. He has not been this season, and Jalen Brunson is more of an actual floor general than Fred Van Vliet has ever been. And so they need someone, not a Jalen Brunson type specifically, but you need someone to look at as your game manager, but like that's not also the only role that they fill. And so I think right now it just feels like their offense, even though it can get out in transition, when you're in the half court, it's an ability to kind of change up the speeds there or have someone that can just make these decisions or generate shots at multiple levels so easily. That's something else that they could stand to address if they're actually looking to buy. If they're deciding like, oh,
yeah,
we need to rebuild, that's a different story altogether.
yeah. Like the Knicks, we all feel they could play in many different fun ways. With they got pick and roll with Obi and small ball and all of that. But Dan, yeah, it's been amazing having you come on, talk about your thoughts on the season so far and the trade stuff coming up. Is there anything you'd like to mention for tonight?
Nope, that's it. Thank you so much for having me. This
Yeah,
was a blast as always.
yeah, pleasure. Everyone else, yeah, Hardwood Knocks podcast, subscribe, read Dan's work with Bleacher Report, and let's talk soon.
Yes, definitely, man. Take care. Thanks so much for
Yeah,
having
you
me.
too. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, continue to rock out tonight, talking about the Knicks' latest buzz, the big win on the national televised game TNT last night in Boston. The Knicks are now 15-10 on the road, crazy road success this season, and a 12-13 at home, right? Which is poignant because the New York Knicks have a big home stretch coming up. The national games are coming up thick and fast. We're going to continue to rock out tonight, talk about the trade buzz, and things that you want to see this team do. But like I said to Dan, I think this season has been a success so far. And if 8 is our floor, then you can't be mad at that internally, I feel like. But let's continue to talk about it tonight. Players made some improvement. I mean, Julius Randle last night, absolute statement around the league, around the NBA fraternity. Right, heard his name dragged through the mud. And Julius Randolph, all of that. We heard Kendra post online, and Julius just looked last night like he just had it on his mind. Right, he just wanted to come out there and bully the C's last night. And boy, did he bully them, man. He was aggressive, taking it to the cup, taking it into the heart of Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown. I think Randall's picked up his defensive intensity as well. Yes, some turnovers still creep in, but he only had 2 turnovers last night. And with that said, we'll give out grades tonight. We'll look at the road ahead and preview this trade talk, continuing to come through as well. Um, Also, some other news you may have just seen just quickly that I've posted online. We have verification. Walt Perrin and the Knicks international scouts are currently in Australia right now, scouting the NBL for a first round projected lottery pick. Rayan Rupert from France, former centre Aaron Baines as well, looking to get back in the league after a debilitating back injury. A lot of scouts, 12 NBA scouts come down looking at Aaron Baines, right? He can stroke it a little bit, he can rebound. But I do think the Knicks are most likely down here looking at the NBL and looking at this crazy draft coming up if I'm keeping it a buck. But with that said, it's positive signs for me, right? Walt Perrin, our scouting department's bulked up, right? We're looking at the future with this situation right now. We're not just content with what we're doing right now, we're looking ahead. And as you also see, the Brooklyn Nets general manager, Sean Marks, is also down here as well. Let that sink in. Just weeks away from the trade deadline, Nets fans were hot. I was seeing all the Nets fans in the comments saying, why is the GM overseas right now? But that just goes to tell you there's a lot of scouting to be done and a lot of talent, overseas. With that said, we've got the talk now that, the Bulls might be interested in Alex Caruso, for a first or 2 firsts as well, which is a bunch of baloney. For me, I would offer no more than a protected pick for Caruso, but I do feel like with Emmanuel Quickley's play, I would like to get a little bit more size. We're losing Cam most likely. Bring in a guy like OG if you can, if it makes sense. Also, look at guys like 6'6" and above, at least. We need to get more multi-positional and some more versatility up in here. So yeah, that was good to see. But yeah, last night, man, just recapping highlight play after highlight play. Like I said to Dan, I think the Knicks came out aggressive, but the Celtics started really hot, 34 points to 26 in the first quarter. I think, funnily enough, as much as we hate it, the fact that Randle and Brunson stayed in the first quarter the whole time kept the Knicks in that, because Boston looked good. They were hitting, they were swishing, and I think the Knicks starters staying in just steadied the ship a little bit. And then when Randle and Brunson went to the bench, we had the bench step up, man. RJ stayed in, Emmanuel Quickley stayed in. Much respect to IQ, the way he's playing, and I really feel like he's seriously putting his name in the six-man conversation right now with some 30 plus games remaining. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there's a six-man in the league playing better than Emmanuel Quickley last night. He had 17 points on 7 of 12 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point land as well. He's rebounding, 3 offensive rebounds. Let that sink in. 5 total, an assist and a steal in 28 minutes. Speaking of a steal, he is a steal, ladies and gentlemen. In terms of where IQ was selected, he's everything you want in a New York Knicks homegrown draft pick. Let's keep him. Let's see him achieve his potential as a New York Knick. Like I said, if Brunson goes out, he can fill in. If Brunson's here, he can be that sixth starter, off the bench with that situation, right? But yeah, like Dirty hits on, the fact is that the Knicks send Walt Perrin down here. They mean business right now. They could have just sent anybody down here as well. And it's not just Rupert. I'm hearing that Perrin's been going to a lot of different games as well. There's a couple of NBA former, draft picks and veterans down here playing as well. But yeah, continue to throw out the names you would like to see the Knicks inquire about. You know, uh, Speaking of the Grayson Allen situation as well, we've heard another report today that the Milwaukee Bucks, ladies and gentlemen, are okay with a like-for-like swap with Cam Reddish and Grayson Allen. So that's interesting. I'm warming to the fact of Allen, the fact that he could stretch it, but I would like to try to get a little bit more out of that situation if I can. I know it's some wishful thinking, but if we could get a player like Allen or a piece and we could get another second round pick, let's bring it all the way to the deadline. I mean, Cam's not playing anyway. I don't think his value is going to get any higher or any lower right now. 6'8" guys don't grow on trees, right? A lot of teams are looking for some size and some length. Let's see. But you guys tell me, what do you think about an Allen for Cam swap? Like for like. With that situation, it's bittersweet because when we traded for Cam 1 year ago, I had high hopes that we could turn him into a piece moving ahead right now. But would I be mad if they did that Grayson deal? I wouldn't. I think he can shoot. Like I said, a lot of teams go zone on the New York Knicks, right? With Randle bully ball, Barrett bully ball, right? Sag off, double at your peril right now. Also, the fact that he's a heady veteran on a championship caliber team. So he's hit clutch shots at MSG against the New York Knicks. So I don't think Grayson Allen's a dude that's going to be shook in the moment. He's going to hit some big threes, sit out there on the perimeter, and let's get this defense stretched out. CA says Cam will show out with the Bucks. Yeah. When Cam locks in, his defense is better than Allen's. You hate the front office in that situation. Yeah, it is bittersweet. Yeah, I agree with many of your points with that situation. But again, sometimes you just got to cut bait and see what you can get now, right? Getting a shooter for Cam ain't the worst thing, I don't think. Dirty says if it's a choice between Grayson and a future second, there is no choice. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking if we could get Grayson and a pick as well, that what I'll be fishing for as well. But we might have to wait all the way to the deadline just to see. Jay Dragon wants us to continue to entertain talks with maybe Hartenstein as well. That's caught my interest too. Point that you bring that up, fam, because the fact is the LA Clippers would love to get back their former backup center as well. But the fact that Mitch is out now, it's tricky, you know. I mean, if we could pick up a Andre Drummond, I'd be okay with that. With selling Hartenstein and getting another pick, let's see. Let's continue to stack this up with our assets, fam. Mr. Vince in the house, what's good? Yeah, he's an efficient shooter. And for Cam, make the deal. I would be happy for Cam to get out of Tibbs's doghouse. Yep. Yeah, salute Vince. Yeah, I agree. You know, the time's come, man. The time's come as well. I mean, Cam's still smiling on the bench. He knows he's out of here, you know, soon, right? The days are ticking with that situation. But yeah, shooting never goes out of style, fam. That's what I'll say. Shooting never goes out of style with that. And yeah, CAA says Getty Bucker. Yeah, again, yeah, if we could get a second or 2 seconds for Isaiah, I'd be more open to that. But Isaiah has picked up his play lately, you know. That needs to be acknowledged. But a lot of players near the trade deadline, man, they do start to pick up their play. Hartenstein, shout out to him for his last 2 games. He was a plus again last night, +9 and 4 points with 6 boards and a block, 1 turnover in 17 minutes as well. So, I mean, when he's fully healthy, he could be serviceable for a team. My thinking is he's not part of the future, right? He's got 1 more year. Let's see if we can get an asset, right? Let's continue to stack up these assets because Jericho Sims is doing nice. You know, he's every bit a part of the future. And I'm glad that the New York Knicks, for reports, are saying that the Knicks are squashing any talks, you know, any teams inquiring about Sims and, of course, Deuce as well, which is kind of surprising, but not surprising. You know, I could see them still being on high on Deuce's future up in here. But if we're keeping it real, we do need that upgrade, like you see on screen, right? Caruso. I mean, I'm not a fan of helping the Bulls out. Let's see how much smoke there is, and seeing what the Bulls can get for Caruso, because I'm not buying that two pick scenario for Caruso. No way, right? If it's 2 or 3 picks for a guy like OG, that's a conversation you'd have happily, you know. If it's, you know, a couple second round picks for Josh Richardson, that's a conversation I'd have, you know. If it's a couple picks for Mikal Bridges, that's a conversation I'd have. You get where I'm going with that situation, man. Yeah, let's go. Appreciate you all. Mr. Man, the one, the only, Ron Cleveland up in here as well. Ron, hope you're well, fam. Let's go. Let us know if you want to come on. Happy to have you on, man. Chop this thing up in a minute. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Fam, I can send you the link. Let us know, man. Just happy to rock out tonight, talk about this situation as well, getting everyone's thoughts up in here as well. Yeah, the New York Knicks season's been a success so far, but there's ways to go, right? It's not how you start, it's how you finish right now. The Knicks got lucky in some areas last night, but I'm pleased with the effort. That's all you could ask for, man, with this. You know, we know the shortcomings of this roster, you know. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we need some shooting, we need some size, we need some more help off the bench, right? But Obi coming back, boy, is he back in a big way with that situation, is Obi, right? Because if he can continue to bring it off the bench and give us some scoring, stretching it out, right? Pick and roll with IQ, with Hartenstein, with Sim, sorry, that gives us vertical spacing, right? Dudes that play above the rim is what we need as well, right? If we don't have the shooting, pick and roll, rim run, lob threat, all of that, baby. You know, we need that with this situation up in here. But I was kind of surprised with that report that the Knicks are squashing any talks for McBride. I mean, if a team's interested in McBride, let's see what they have to offer with that situation. But I'm loving the fact that the Knicks are, investing in their young players now. They're liking what they're seeing, and they're investing. Right? Maybe we just need to sprinkle in a few more ingredients and get this thing cooking right now. Some vets mashed in with some young players as well. And we'll give out grades in a minute. But Quentin Grimes' performance as well. I think it's a big learning lesson for Quentin Grimes. I love the fact that he's in these big moments, shooting these big shots. But Quentin Grimes came up small last night, right? There's no beating around the bush last night. 2 wide open threes. That would have killed the game off. We wouldn't even have to go overtime. Yep, with that situation, and we'd be up in here with that situation. So yeah, I think it'd be poignant with that situation, and as man's going to come through. Yep, I'll drop the link for Mr. Man. Let's go. Yeah, we'll continue to chop this thing up. Let's go. But yeah, with the trade buzz coming up, I think it's a huge situation for the Knicks to strike too. Just don't sacrifice the future up in here. And I really do think we can make some huge moves, with this situation coming in. Leon Rose, Worldwide West, they're on the road, they're scouting all overseas now. And I think we're in a big situation for Leon Rose now in his third regime, right? He's got to make some big moves coming in to secure his role, I think, moving ahead. Right, let's see what he does. Trini, what's good? Salute. How we feeling, fam? CA says he wish Deuce was like Jose, but he can't shoot a thing. Yeah, unfortunately that's the shortcomings of some of these Knicks players, man, with the second round picks. If you look at it though, between him and Trevor Keels, we lucked out, with getting Deuce versus Trevor Keels. At least one's a valuable rotation piece right now. But yeah, I agree. If you're trying to win, fam, you need an upgrade. You need an upgrade over Deuce with that situation, and I think the Knicks will. Right, we've got plenty of talk, buzz, coming in with this situation on screen. Right. With that said, yeah, the Knicks need a center. I feel like a backup guy would be nice if we can sell Hartenstein off and get another bona fide defensive anchor / rim protector. I'm all for that. Yeah, I'd be all for that situation. With that said, it's a situation where Quentin Grimes is going to learn from last night. But boy, is RJ Barrett been there. He's been around the block. He's had some big moments. He's played playoffs. And I'm not surprised RJ didn't shrink in that moment, fam. Drew's review, salute. Appreciate you. Yep. Yep, appreciate you. Thanks, man. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate you. Yep, we're trying to keep this thing clean. Just treat everybody with respect, and continue to talk as we're Knicks family up in here. We all have differing opinions, different ways we would like to build this thing, but we're all brothers and sisters, aunties, uncles, and mothers and fathers up in here as well. Everyone's real up in here. We respect everybody's opinion, but we just may not agree at times. But it's hard to agree with everything, There's so much buzz, so many different directions we could take this thing right now, from draft picks to free agency to trades to firing the coach, replacing Leon perhaps. There's a million different directions right now. But the Knicks are moving in a better direction for me. There's no doubt about it. We've got more competent scouting, more competent draft personnel. And you look at our roster right now and our rotation. Yes, it's ISO heavy. Our plays veteran and isolation heavy. But with the amount of young players playing right now that we drafted, that's huge. Yeah, that's absolutely huge. Dirty says Deuce finally brought that defensive intensity last night against the Seas. He would be playable if he did that every single night. That was a la, fam, shades of the first 5 games when Deuce came in. Gave us that huge boost. He's a young player still, and I think he was a little bit gassed. He was in a situation where it was tight for him playing huge minutes. Also, I want to say this: I didn't overreact to those bad losses in Washington, in Toronto, and that. I think it was part Knicks being gassed, part tough schedule, but I did feel like the Knicks wouldn't lose, 6, 7, 8 in a row. I didn't think we would just go downhill, or anything like that. With that said, let me bring in my man backstage. He's backstage right now. And continue the talk as we continue to chop this thing up right now. You know who he is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to get this set up right for this situation. Friday night Knicks talk, we hear. Plenty of buzz swirling around the league. And a lot going on right now. A lot going on. How we doing, Ron?
Man. CT, what's going on with you? You can hear me?
Yep, loud and clear. I just can't see you.
You know what? Hey, let me go out and come back in. I think I probably just need to reboot.
Okay. Yep,
All
we got you.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Man, gonna come through in a minute. But we continue to rock out tonight. We're gonna get Ron's thoughts on this situation. Look, the Brunson situation, Sherwin. A lot of talk. Brunson is that dominant ball handler, ball hog, whichever way you want to describe it. I don't think that's to be true right now. I really feel like he is in a situation where he's playing his role for the team. Again, how many players do the New York Knicks have that can be clutch in the moment right now? Yes, ball movement's still key, but I think I can't be too hard on Brunson right now for what he's doing. For this club, he's doing some big things still, and he will continue to do big things. For us, we haven't had that point guard, in a hot minute, and that's going to be key in the playoffs. Come playoff time, it's going to be huge. Still his play. Scoring point guards are the norm. I'm still willing to have that argument with people that want a different kind of point guard. I understand, but you got to recognize that those point guards are few and far between right now. He could get you 5 to 8 assists if you need, but with the Knicks' lack of scoring, let's keep it real, right? Look at the bench. We don't have guys that can come in and light it up, so often. With that said, but we love you all together, Sherwin. Keep it real. Keep it buzzing. A la Weiss, let's go. Not worried about a trade tonight. I'm focused on beating the snot out of Brooklyn. Yes. Love that, fam. Let's go. Let's go with that. Right. We know it's not classified as a road, it's classified as a road game. But ladies and gentlemen, it's essentially a home game. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100% buck. With that said, and got my man backstage right now. Let me get this buzzing right now, and everyone's smashing that like button because we here with the one, the only, Mr. Man. You know who he is, right? Can't wait to get his thoughts on this situation because it's a key time of year, man. Huge key time of year. Let's go. What's good?
Man. What's going on, CT? What's going on? Shout out to the chat, man, to the Knicks fans, the best fans, you know what I mean? What's going on, man? Been a minute. Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. Looking well.
And proud of you, man. Proud of you. I'm proud of you. You know what I mean? Keep doing what
Yeah.
you're doing.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. How you been? What's been happening? What did you think of last night?
Oh man. First off, been a lot going on with me, you know what I mean? Pops ain't, you know what I mean, gotta have surgery, you know what I mean?
Oh,
You know what I mean? And been running back and forth with him.
prayers
You know
up.
what I mean? So that is trying. Yeah, they diagnosed him with stage 1 pancreatic cancer. You know what I mean? But the
Oh,
good thing
sorry to
is
hear,
the
man.
doc said that it is treatable and fixable. And the thing is where it's at is at the very top. So because of
Yeah.
that, they can do surgery and everything, and the long-term prognosis is great. So, they caught it very early.
Mm,
So, yeah, and it hadn't spread no other place and everything else. So that's, that's very encouraging. And my pops, he ready to tackle that thing, head on.
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You got
So,
that Cleveland gene, that
yeah,
strong
yeah,
gene.
yeah. Yeah. You talking about a guy that's about to be 70 years old and still been doing
Oof.
like lifting, like heavy weights and stuff. You know what I mean? With the work that he be doing. So, yeah, man. But other than that, man, CT, man, I can't complain, man. Life is good. Just came back from California, seeing my son. Yeah,
Mm.
I can't complain, man. Can't
How's
complain at all.
Junior?
He's doing good. Matter of fact, he's getting ready to go to Hawaii for 4 years.
Wow.
So he's gonna be in Honolulu for 4 years. So,
Wow.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
man.
So
Give us it. What's on your mind?
I tell you, man, right now with this Knicks team, I'm proud of them. I'm really proud of them because to me, they really they exceeding my expectations. I didn't expect this team to even be in no hunt for anything. Like I thought the season was over. Given the way they started the season, I was
Mm.
like, this season is over. You know what I mean? So I'm proud of them for what they're doing. Leon, right now for me, this is where Leon is gonna have to make his money. You know what I mean? He has to make his money. The last
You
few
said
years
it.
he been able to be under the radar, but now this is what's gonna separate you from being either an okay exec, a good exec, or a bad one. You know what I mean? Because everything is in place. He just got to get the right piece in there, man. But I'm convinced that it's funny because I got on shout out to D's World. It was on his show today, and I truly feel this way. There's three guys on this team right now that you can count on night in and night out, and that's Brunson, Julius Randle, and Emmanuel Quickley. Those three guys.
Ooh,
And
yeah,
and I throw in Mitchell Robinson too. He's injured right now, but Mitchell Robinson is another one that you can count on night in and night out when he's on the floor. You know what I mean? Injuries withstanding. But RJ, man, I was holding out hope. He looked like he was turning a corner, but now he looked like he done reverted back to struggling again. And that game last night, he played terrible. But he made the shots that count. And I gotta give him credit.
yep.
He's got to get more consistent because in my book, the Knicks is missing one more bona fide guy to be that dude in that starting lineup. And he
100%.
might be the odd man out when we're talking about trading. Because I know there was a report about OG Anunoby they was trying to trade for. And I could see them trading him to Toronto for him, along with some picks.
Yep. That's going to be interesting. I do feel like we need to make that one more piece, just to relieve the pressure because, like you said, guys can step up, Grimes, RJ, but when you're relying so heavily on two or three dudes with Mitch out, and it's go time, right? It's gut check time of the season. You know, we could definitely string off a lot of wins. We could string off a lot of losses.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm,
So that game tomorrow, I think the Knicks will win that game. There's no way that they're gonna beat us without having KD.
no.
This is the one time that I feel comfortable playing them. They're not gonna beat us tomorrow. And it might even get ugly. It might even be a beatdown. I won't be
Oh,
surprised if the Knicks win by about, I would say, 10 to 15 points.
yeah.
I won't be surprised.
Put their foot on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They need
How
to.
you
Statement.
feel about Julius Randle? How he's been playing?
He's back,
Hey, say
baby.
no more. Hey, that says it all.
He's back. You know, I mean, I don't know if that contract's descending, man, but he's exceeding what he's getting paid. I mean, we do need to highlight that. You know, yes, he's got some kinks in his game, like like an old machine, but you know, like an old Terminator. He's doing the
CJ,
job.
I don't know why I can barely hear you.
Okay, you got me now.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's
Yeah.
still quite low. I don't know why that happened.
Okay. Let me fix something on my end. Right now, let me know if you can hear me clearly now.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. I just gonna have to just pay
Yeah.
close attention, listen intently,
Yeah.
because I don't know. It's still low, but it's okay. We'll work with it. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We
Facts.
overcome. You know what I mean? We adjust.
Yeah.
In my opinion on Julius Randle, man, this is the story. This is the story. This the stuff that movies are written about. What that dude has done this year, man, is really unbelievable. I have never seen a player fall out of favor with the fan base in any franchise the way he has and come back to this degree. I mean, he's playing better than the MIP season. Let's just call
Yeah.
it what it is. He's playing better than that season.
Say that again.
He is playing better than the MIP season. You know what I mean?
Facts.
I'm proud of the dude, man. And as long as he keep playing like this, and I was saying this today, if you take Julius Randle off this team and Jalen Brunson, a lot of the Knicks fans want the Knicks to be in the lottery. That's exactly where they'll be going full steam ahead without them two guys on the court.
Yep. Yeah, he brought some respect back. I mean, look at last night, national televised game, going at their superstars, Ron.
Yeah, the way those guys are playing right now, you can argue them guys are playing like stars, man. Because yeah, I remember Wise. We said it, man, that he would have a bounce back year, but this even exceeded my thoughts, man. Nah, CTA ain't a Randall hater.
Nah.
I know
Man,
better than that.
I support this. You know that.
Yeah, ain't but the name on the back of the
Not,
jersey; it's the name on the
yeah.
front. But
Not
it's
not this. This.
yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? But and the thing is that I look at is my major concern right now. The person I'm looking at is RJ Barrett, man,
Ooh.
because he has to step up. He has to take it to another level. And the thing is, I'm really shocked because I thought that with Jalen Brunson coming and Julius, that was going to take so much pressure off him that he was going to just have a phenomenal, year. But I mean, you're still seeing the same up and down play that you saw last year, in years past from RJ. And one could argue that his defense has regressed from year one. You know what I
Absolutely. It
mean?
has. Yep. It
So
has.
that's it. To me, when you look at disappointments for the team, I'm disappointed that Cam ain't getting more of a role. But I understand how things play in sports, man. If your coach never wanted you to begin with, you fighting an uphill battle.
That's the thing.
And but with RJ, I gotta say right now, him and Obi to me is running real close for my disappointments because Obi is very disappointing too for me.
Yep.
For where he was drafted at, I thought this year coming in that he was gonna, take the next step, especially the way he finished the season last season. I just knew he was gonna come in and be like, okay, get out the way. You know what I mean? But that hadn't materialized neither. But overall, man, as a team, in a good way, my biggest surprise, it has to be Emmanuel Quickley. I didn't see this from Emmanuel Quickley. I'm sorry, I did not. Emmanuel Quickley is a two-way player right now. He's a two-way
Facts.
player. Let's face it,
Facts.
he's a two-way player.
Absolutely.
And think about this, CT. if Emmanuel Quickley was 6'5", 6'6", playing the way he's playing,
Max deal coming his way.
max deal, and you know what? He would be in the starting lineup.
No Brunson.
He would be in the starting lineup. RJ or Grimes would be going to the bench. And one could argue, if Quickley was that size, RJ might not have gotten the deal in the summertime.
That's true, yeah. Think about it, Ron. Players pop around about this age with Quickley. 4th year,
Yeah.
3rd year, man. All this talk of disrespect, you know, Tyrese Maxey's doing this. He heard it. IQ heard it.
Yeah, and some people will say, well, you know, IQ, you know, he's balling because, you know, since the trade rumors, and I remember I was one of the people who said it too, that ever since the trade rumors, like his game changed. And he has not leveled off at all. Like he was like, you know, proving a point to the organization. Okay, if you're gonna get me up out of there, I'm gonna show you what you're gonna miss.
Yep.
Or if the next team that gets me, they're gonna see what I can do. Either way it go, he was auditioning.
What about Randall's tied his most 30-point games in the MIP season already at 15?
Man, Randall, to me, is playing like the game has really, really slowed down for him. Like he don't seem to be in a hurry like that anymore. He don't force. I don't see a lot of forcing from him. And heck, even the turnovers are down. I don't know how many turnovers he had last night, but it just seemed like even as a whole, this season, like he's not turning over the ball like he used to. And now, like when it is a turnover, it seemed like more of I'm throwing the ball to a spot, expecting my man to cut to get the ball. Like last night, I think he had one where he expected Quentin Grimes to cut baseline, and he didn't go. You know what I mean? So Randall, I'm proud of Randall, man. And I said about a month back that I was going to buy his jersey. I think I might have to go ahead and get it. I hadn't bought a Knicks jersey since matter of fact, since the Randall jersey I gave away, ironically. But I had to show. I gave away a white Julius Randall jersey, so I think I'm gonna go purchase one for myself, man.
Man, that fan you gave that away to got to be enjoying that now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
2-time All-Star. Now, does he get in? He has to get in.
You know, I said it today, CT. If they do not put Randall in the All-Star game, they don't need to be another. The All-Star game need to be canceled for this year.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
if he is not in the All-Star game, they need to cancel it for this year.
I think they need to cancel it altogether.
Yeah, they need to come up with another idea for it. That's for sure.
Either Heat's down to the Magic right now.
That's good for us.
Yep, let's keep an eye on that, chat, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Julius Randle's killing it right now. Only 28 years old, right? He's definitely a piece we could build with.
Yeah, he's in his prime. He's definitely in the prime. And, you know, there's nobody that I can look at in this league that can check that kid, man. The only thing you can hope with Randall is that he has an off night.
Yep.
There's nobody I see in the league that can guard him.
Well, you swarm him, get him moving the ball quickly, which he needs to do. You know it's coming.
This is a good indicator on him too that I noticed. This lets you know when you got a player on your team. Is when teams start trying to send double teams and triple teams. That lets you know when you got a player.
Yep.
If you guard Randall one-on-one, you're in trouble.
Big trouble. Last night, took advantage.
Look what he was doing. Look what he was doing to Tatum and Brown last night.
Yeah. How many posters did he have?
2. You know, CT, you know, sometimes the trades you don't make end up being your best trade.
Yep.
Remember how close Randall was to being traded in the offseason?
We're lucky no one wanted him. That's why.
Yeah, you right, because we'd have been looking back and been like, well, why wasn't he playing like this with us? Because even in a down year last year, he still averaged, 20 and, what was it, 7 or maybe 9? 20 and 9?
It's a 3-point ball, Ron. Like, who would have thought a player would pop 3-point ball?
Yeah, man. So, I can't. Any Knicks fan right now, I'm going to tell you that complaining about Randle, you just hating. I'm sorry. I got to say it. I got to call you out on it.
Well, they're salty.
The way that dude's been performing, you can't complain about it.
Yeah.
And then he's giving effort on both sides of the ball. It ain't just offensively. And the rebounds.
Astronomical, man.
I mean, that guy has been crazy on the boards.
Yeah, man. The coach is definitely going to get him in, man. And Brunson's helped him out, right? Because there's an extra threat.
Yeah.
Another threat, right? You can't double Randle, or you can try to. And, yeah, if he moves it quick enough, Brunson can take over, man. Isolation. Have you seen a better isolation player on the Knicks than Jalen Brunson in a minute?
No. And I got to say the shout out to Charles Barkley, because he said something last night during that telecast, and they try to gloss over it. Them other guys, when he said, has there been any better free agent signing in the last 20 years?
No.
And then Jalen Brunson. And, the guys immediately talk about the obvious, KD and LeBron. And Charles was like, those guys are a whole different category of players. But when you think about the impact of a player going to a team, other than them two guys, in the last 20 years, Brunson probably is the biggest free agent signing. I can't think of one bigger.
Neither can I, especially the way he's playing, man.
Probably Kawhi to Toronto. You know what I mean? But Toronto was still a very good team. But for what Brunson is bringing to this Knicks organization, he stabilized that point guard position. CT, think how long we've been crying for a point guard.
Oh, man. It was a patch job. Elfrid Payton. What's his name?
Chris
Barrett.
Duhon, Emmanuel Mudiay, Frank Ntilikina. Man, the list goes on and on of the people they've tried it out trying to be the point guard lead dog for this team. I would say since Stephon Marbury. Since Marbury. Let that sink in. You know what I mean? So, and that's another reason why he's another one that should be an all-star. It'll be a travesty if he don't make it either. Both those guys should be all-stars. Because, I mean, the impact that they've had to this Knicks organization this year, man, is, and I said it today, and I'm going to stand on it. The Knicks going to the playoff, it ain't going to be no playing.
Yes, facts. Facts, man. The Heat are losing. They're down 5 now. So, you know what I like, Ron? The fact is, this team's playing tough games. They're going to have to play tough to earn it. If they get in, they're going to have to earn every single thing.
Yeah, absolutely. CT, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Your videos just dropped out, but I can hear you.
I don't know why that was freezing, but if you can hear me, the thing that I like with these games that the Knicks are playing, of course, you don't like for your team to lose leads. You know what I mean? But this is the kind of stuff, the way they're playing is the kind of stuff that happens in the playoffs. Like, teams are going to go on runs. You're going to give up leads. You're going to have to fight back. So the Knicks have been in so many of these games that when it's time for the playoffs, you know what I mean? When it's time for the playoffs, they're going to be used to it. They're not going to be, it's not going to be like foreign language for them.
Exactly. Battle tested. Battle hardened. You know what I like last night too? The clutch free throws.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Randle and Barrett, they hit both free throws, both of them.
Yeah. And those are two guys where the game is tight. Normally you be like, oh man. Not them going to the free throw line. You know what I mean? Not them. Because you can just count on them missing at least one. Yeah, but they nailed them, man. They nailed those free throws. And they weren't the variety of beating up all the paint on the rim. There were no doubters. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Part of me was thinking, man, RJ's looking confident. He's looking confident. He grabbed the rebound, didn't want to pass, none of that. He wanted to go there and sink 2 free throws.
Yeah, yeah. RJ, he definitely redeemed himself. He definitely redeemed himself because I had already I could hear the vultures coming out, man. If we would have lost this game last night, and
Oh,
rightfully so, he would have got the line share of the blame. You know what
yeah,
I mean? He
absolutely.
would have gotten it.
Absolutely, man. Let me ask you this. How many 22-year-olds are a finished product?
Not many, not many. But the thing is, however, we're in a league now where patience from the front
Oh,
office and
zero.
patience from the fan base within them first 4 years when you get in that fourth, because this is what RJ's fourth year.
Yep. And he
This is
got
year
signed
4.
and he got the
And most
bag.
NBA contracts is what, 4 or 5 years when you're on the rookie deal.
Yep.
So really, we're at a point with RJ where, there's some decision making. Of course, they gave him the contract, but at this point, he should know who he is game wise and what is his bread and butter. What is his go to move? You know what I mean? There's no more guesswork, is what I'm saying with RJ. Like, he should know exactly who he is as a ball player.
Yeah. Yeah, he's coming. Trust me, he's coming. He's gonna burst out. What do you think of the All Stars? Who have you got in there as the All Stars?
I don't have a problem with that all-star list, but I think now I do have a problem with this. I think like when you miss so many games, I think that should disqualify you, man.
Yeah.
I think that should
Yeah.
disqualify you. I don't care how good, like you better have been playing up to the point of the voting. But if you've missed too many games, man, you should not be an all-star. And I remember Kobe had talked about that with him when he was like, I think out almost the whole season, and they voted him into the All Star. The fans voted him in. So yeah, I think that's the only thing I would change about it. And realistically, I would I would like it even if the coaches and the GMs, if they were the ones who were doing all the voting,
Yep.
and
Me too.
let the fans vote for the reserves.
Yep. Definitely, man. That's respect. I think this game's just a glorified exhibition.
Yeah, and it's nothing of value. It's not like in baseball
Yep.
when it's the All Star game, they got something to play for because the team that wins, that conference that wins, whichever league, that's who's going to get the start and the get the home field advantage for the World Series. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in basketball, there's no value to that All Star game.
Yeah. I'd prefer a tourney, mid-season tourney. You know, let let teams battle it out for another draft pick
You know,
or or more salary cap space. Imagine that the team that wins the mid-season tourney gets another part of salary cap.
I was telling Soulfinger what they need to do with that lottery. I'm a big proponent for this, man. I think they need to get rid of that lottery because a ball should not determine who get the number 1 pick. What they need to do is have a committee and let that committee actively look at the teams, and they can decide who's the worst 10 teams in the league. You know what I mean? And also that committee can see when teams are trying to tank on purpose. You see what I'm saying? And penalize them
Yep.
for it. I don't like the idea of a ball. The same way in college football, how they have those guys vote on who's the best team in the country.
Yep.
That's what needs to happen in basketball to determine 1 through 10 who gets the lottery. That's what I think they should do. That way you don't even have to worry about a turning, and it'll
Exactly.
be fair because think about it. Think about the year that the Knicks was obviously the worst team in the NBA, and we didn't get the number 1 pick, which ended up being Zion, who went to New Orleans and New Orleans had just got rid of their franchise player Anthony Davis and turned around and get the number 1 pick. You see what I'm saying? And that's another thing. You should not be rewarded. You should not have back-to-back years where you get the number 1 pick. And that's another reason why they should have a committee in place. Because that would eliminate a team getting the number 1 pick in back-to-back years.
Yeah, that's
or even the possibility
smart.
of having it. Because think about it, when you get the number 1 pick, that number 1 pick is supposed to be a franchise-changing player. A franchise-changing player, you shouldn't have to go get another number 1 pick the very next year.
Exactly.
That in my opinion is unfair.
Flawed. Yep. Yeah, it's flawed. But I'd love to see that tournament. I don't know if you heard this, Ron, but what do you make of Walt Perrin and the Knicks scouts are in Australia at the moment? Let that sink in.
Well, what I make of that is they must have heard you talking about Giddy last year and they didn't pay attention. I always got to give you respect for that, man. And you call that kid being a bona fide stud. You know what I mean? You called
he had the passing skills already, but man,
and then,
they're looking
now,
at this
wasn't
Mendy.
that the league? I'm trying to think who else was in that league. Was Alonzo Ball in that league too?
No, that was just after that.
I'm trying to think who all came out of that league that Giddey played in.
Yeah, Giddey came out the same year as the Josh Primo one. Remember, that was the other shock. I think the Spurs took Josh Primo with like pick 9. I think OKC took Giddey with 6.
Yeah, it's some interesting times in New York, man. Right now, all Knicks fans should be proud and happy to wear anything New York Knicks, and just know that game last night, I think it really put the Knicks on the map. I think it put us on the map last night nationally because you beat the best team in the conference, possibly in the league, and not only that, you gave them their first loss within the Atlantic Division. First division loss last night on their floor without Mitchell Robinson.
What about OKC, Ron? They're coming, man. All they try to do is bottom out and keep getting a top 5 pick every year. they got Chet, which is on ice this season. Imagine if they get Wemby again.
I'll say this about OKC. The league better be happy that they're in a small market and that they're in Oklahoma City. Because with Sam Presti and what they got, and them young players over there, they're a problem. They are a problem. And if they were, my goodness, that would have been the New York Knicks with those players.
Man.
It would be scary for the league. Teams would be calling the league office complaining.
Yeah, and they robbed the Clippers with the Shai Gilgeous thing.
Oh yeah,
it was the worst trade in NBA history. Now they got
when you look at it now, it's definitely the worst.
Yeah, let this sink in, Ron. They got the Thunder a better record than the Blazers and the Lakers right now.
Yeah, and with only one star / maybe even I consider he budding to be a superstar in Shai Gilgeous.
But that's how good Giddey is right now too. He's triple-double most nights.
Yeah, and that dude, he's a big point guard too.
Yeah, they beat the Nuggets, man, on Sunday. Let that sink in.
So CT, tell me how you feel about those reports about what the Knicks were offering for OG.
Was it 2 to 3 picks? Interested in doing that? That tells me Tom Thibodeau, Ron. It tells me Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau's wanted OG for a minute. and
Yeah,
I think
I'm.
they don't want
I'll
to
tell
they
you
don't
this
want to
for
use these
me.
draft picks.
For me, it actually tells me something about the front office. For me, I wouldn't make that trade. I feel like that's too much to give up for him.
Hmm.
And it really lets me know by them trying to offer that amount for him, if it's true, and I have to preface that because things get reported that don't always be true. But if that is true and it's reported that they try to give up that to get him, that really signals to me that they knew they screwed up with that Donovan Mitchell deal and they should have gave what was needed to get him. And they pretty much learned their lesson, the cost of doing business in this league. When you want something, an asset, you're gonna have to spend to get it.
Yeah, the Minnesota wrecked the trade market, man.
Oh yeah, with
Got-
that Rudy Gobert trade, that was the dumb. I think that's probably the worst trade in the last easy 10 years. That's in a decade. That's the worst trade, and not
Let this
because
sink
Rudy
in.
ain't good, but because what they gave up to get Rudy.
Yeah.
That was dumb.
KD couldn't get traded because of that. And
Exactly.
let this sink in, Ron. You got the Bulls asking for 2 picks for Caruso now. I'm
They
like,
crazy.
man,
They crazy.
what's Quickley worth if Caruso's worth 2 picks?
Man, ain't no way I give up no 2 picks for no Caruso. And I think he's a good player, but I would not. I
Yeah.
would not do that.
I'd rather a
To your
buyout
point, if he's
candidate
worth
for
2,
free.
quickly got to be worth 4.
Mm.
Because
What?
Quickley is definitely better than Caruso.
Ring up Danny Ainge. What Quentin Grimes worth?
Oh man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that Chicago need to be drug tested for trying to get 2 draft picks, two number 1 picks for Caruso.
What's Levine worth?
Yeah, exactly. 6. If he's worth 2, Levine must be worth 6. Because there's no comparison between those 2 players.
What do you think of Mitch? Do you think he's the long-term big man? The Miles Turner buzz is still out there.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I would keep Mitch. I won't even touch Miles Turner.
Yep.
Mitch, to me, Mitch and even Miles Turner too. The thing about Mitch's value is there's not too many true big men shot blockers in the league anymore. If you look throughout this league, there are not a lot of shot blockers.
Exactly.
And Mitchell Robinson covers up a lot with this team defense, man. And that's why we went on that skid as soon as he got hurt. And it's not surprising that even though we won the game against Boston, all these games we're watching, teams are not afraid to come to the paint. They're not afraid. Why? Because Mitchell Robinson ain't there. And I like Jericho Sims, but for as much as he can jump and as strong as he is, there's something to be said for height. And you saw that the other night with Jared Allen, because Jared Allen was killing Jericho Sims when we played Cleveland.
He was.
I don't know how many times I saw the hook shot over the top of him. You can't teach size.
We do got to play a bit of small ball, I feel, though, Ron. Like, Obi can be a mismatch, I think, at some. If you keep Obi, you got to use him right. We're not using him right. What are your thoughts on that? Ron might be having some tech difficulties, but yeah, that's my thoughts, chat. And Ron, Obi, however long he's here, right? 16 minutes last night. He can shoot the 3 ball. He can do a lot of stuff. The Knicks have definitely mismanaged, misused Obi, right? Even when you knew what Randle was doing, you pivot, right? This is a fluid situation. This is an NBA franchise, a business, right? If something's not working for you, you pivot, and you got to make adjustments. Right now, we were inflexible with Cam. Lost all value on that situation that we gave up. We were too rigid with Obi. We're losing any value with that. 8th overall pick. right? It's just a sad situation right now. He's shown you that he can shoot it some. Yes, I don't think Obi's ready to be a NBA starter on a winning team, but if you want to develop him, he can be, definitely. But it's more about getting his minutes up, right? Talk about all these teams asking for 2 picks for Caruso, 2 picks for this guy, 3 picks for that guy. If we were playing Obi 25 minutes plus for the last 2 seasons, we don't know what his trade value would be at right now. You know, there'd be a huge chance that his value is much higher. You know, you guys tell me your thoughts on that situation. What do you hope for us, the New York Knicks, to make out of this Obi Toppin situation, right? Do you love him and want him to stay for the long haul? Do you feel like it's time to make a switch up? Are you a wait and see still? Do you feel like the Knicks could be wise to just wait another rest of the season, use him as that bench piece that we need, right? But yeah, that's one of the areas where Tom Thibodeau's rigidness has definitely hurt this team. The Kemba Walker thing, I don't have any issue with that. Austin Rivers thing, I don't have any issue. Those guys were blatantly hurting the team. The Fournier situation, yep, he definitely needed to have his minutes shrunk. But with foundational piece, a draft pick like Obi, definitely a situation where we messed up. We messed up so far with that situation. He's still here. There's still an opportunity for us to correct this thing. But obviously, we were never going to predict what Randle's be doing right now. The way Randle's come out to play, right, that's taken care of itself. But we needed to do something creative, with Obi, right? Even when Randle needs to sit and Brunson's on the court, sub Obi in, run some pick and roll, get him flashing, get him cutting, baseline as a rim runner threat. But just anything outside of standing in the corner and just being a shooter, and with this situation, yeah, the lob threat's diminished too. Terrell's in the house, Jarvis LaFleur in the house, salute, rocking out. Streets are buzzing right now. The New York Knicks aren't ducking, and smash that like button because we're at home tonight at the Barclays, and the Knicks can put down a huge performance now again on national TV, get on a 3-game winning streak, and go 5 games over. Right now, as we check in with the Miami Heat Orlando Magic result, and I will give it to you straight right now. What's happening with that? It's the end of the third, and the Magic are up by 6, 79-73 right now. So that's the Magic playing great right now. They welcome back the one, the only, Jonathan Isaac, although he's out tonight again, maybe load management. But let's talk Gary Harris and dudes like RJ Hampton, Terrence Ross, and Mo Bamba are on the block. They have a huge logjam, a roster crunch. To the Magic now with Isaac back, Terrence Ross not even getting any minutes, RJ Hampton, a struggling young prospect right now, Bol showing out, Mo Wagner, Jalen Suggs as part of their future right now. Looks like they're doing it smart. They're playing Gary Harris 26 minutes tonight so far as well. Let's see what they do with Wendell Carter. And now the Magic have gone up 8 to start the fourth, 81-73. So we'll be on live still. We'll definitely keep our eye out on that. Keep the buzz coming right now, ladies and gentlemen. We talked to Dan FAVALE of Bleacher Report, Hardwood Knocks Pod. Ron Cleveland come up. We'll see if Ron comes back in. But yeah, just enjoying this talk because, as a 30-plus year Knick fan, man, we've been through some worse tough times right now. Yes, this ain't perfect right now, but we're moving in a direction for me that's palatable. We've got some flexibility. We've got some pieces on cost-friendly deals right now. We can take it to any team in the league. Like last night was just a statement win for Julius Randle, right? He heard the disrespect. He wasn't happy. Allah says, I think we're using Obi right. Less Obi is more. He has to go, no move yet. Iffy defense. The longer he out there, usually the less he can do, less he does. Right there. He has his ups and downs, definitely. I think one of the biggest frustrations with Obi that we may never know is, players got to go through some growing pains too. And I think we may never get to see what it would have been like, as a rebuilding franchise to just play him, extended minutes regularly, if Randle never popped. Like Dirty also hits on, it is my number one complaint with Tibbs. Any other team would have at least experimented with him playing with the vastly better Randle. Yep. Yeah, definitely some situations with offensive schemes. Like we all know the different systems, fam. You see Obi with the Spurs, with the ball movement, player movement. Obi getting up and down, like Dan said tonight with Charlotte. Even Obi with Toronto would be that would be exciting, potentially. That just the styles. I mean, the fit with that situation. But yeah, in terms of the latest trade talk, ladies and gentlemen, we have Gary Trent Jr. Reports say today that he's the very most likely player from Toronto to be moved on. There's according to a report, there's a world where they feel Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, Pascal, and OG can stay with that situation. You guys tell me, is that just posturing right now? I think it definitely could be because, Toronto are, flaming out 27 and 22 in 12th right now. They're not winning anything with that roster, right? What are they going to wake up next year and suddenly be better with that? I think they're banking on a great lottery pick right now. As the Heat pull within 5, 78-73 now, with 10 to go in the fourth right now. The Knicks will be in sole 6 seed tonight, I think, if the Heat lose. Will be tied with 6. I think the Heat still own the tiebreaker, actually, if they are ahead of their division, but will be tied with 6th tonight, so we'll keep an eye out on that. Yeah, we have Mo Bamba. We mentioned the Magic situation. They've got plenty of pieces that they're going to likely to move. I think Terrence Ross is the most likely one. But could the Knicks do better than him? I don't mind the Grayson Allen move because he can shoot. But a guy like Terrence Ross is more of a playmaking scoring guard off the bench. That could help us more in that, put the ball on the deck. We know Grayson Allen can't really do that. Grayson's more of that spot up, catch and shoot sniper, 3-point shooter. Terrence Ross is a guy who could handle it more some, but it all comes down to cost. Yep. Yeah, appreciate you, Ron. Let's go. Appreciate having you on, man. Let's talk soon. But yeah, keep rocking out in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Big win last night. What was your favorite thing from last night? I mentioned to Ron just before the free throw shooting was an underrated aspect. RJ Barrett, 5 of 6 from the line last night. Julius Randle, 6 of 7 from the line, ladies and gentlemen. Right? How does that make you feel, right? Are these guys growing? Are these guys learning now? Got these lumps out of the way? The free throw follies of yesterday? Right now, that's impressive, Only missed 1 free throw from each of them in a tight game on the road in Beantown, where the decibel levels were up another notch right now. Right. When Celtics was making their run, man, I had shades of the 2010, 2011 playoff series with that situation, man. And the 2012, 2013 one, where the funeral, where the Knicks were trying to close the C's out, man, when Shump, JR, and that the Knicks crumbled from a 20-point lead or something and still pulled it out. That was crazy. But yeah, the free throw shooting from last night, I think Grimes, again, you got to go through your lumps to get better. One small critique I got is Grimes. Yeah, he's shooting it way too quick, man. I don't know what the rush is. He catches it down in his feet, and he's up there in a millisecond, right there as well. There were times when he could have taken more time and not rushed that attempt, I think. But yeah, Grimes was inefficient, but his defense was great. He gives you toughness and effort, but he was outmatched by Tatum, of course, at times. I'll tell you another area where the Knicks need to improve as well. The Knicks foul at the worst possible times, Like, let's say you're up 6. Let's say you're up 8 with 2:30 left, right? You got Tatum blow by his guy, straight to the cup. Like the one where Julius Randle came over to help, right, and fouled. I think he fouled Jalen Brown or Robert Williams. But one of them, man, right there would be the perfect scenario with just to back off, let the guy get the layup, and don't extend our woes, man. The Knicks' leads evaporate very quickly as well due to 3 balls and 3-point plays. But I don't think giving up 2s hurts you as much, So the Knicks continue to foul at inopportune times. Jalen Brown got fouled by Brunson as well, right? If your man blows by you, just be smart about it. Try and be smart about it, man. Jarvis says, I think it's time to move on with the Obi situation. Randle won't get traded, and is he worth the contract extension? Yeah, very, very valid points. Question as well, Jarvis. Yep. I guess it all depends. Like, we're not in Leon Rose's seat, but only he knows what offers are available right now in terms of what Obi's value is. Like Jarvis says, my worry is the longer we wait, the lower that value might go down even more, I think Obi's value might not get any higher because he has some time still on the contract. If you're trading for Obi, a selling point to the other team, could be that, hey, you got a little bit of time with Obi, to see what he got in your system. Yep. Yeah, the Cam situation with the Bucks it's an unusual fit. I agree. I think maybe if I'm trying to rationalize it for the Bucks, they're thinking that they're lacking a little bit of defensive toughness, with Grayson Allen, Connaughton, not the best defenders out there with Connaughton and Grayson Allen, Maybe they want that little bit more length and toughness defensively, I think, in terms of guarding those wings, Middleton up and down with his injuries, and Giannis, they don't want him using up all his tank. Yeah, Jarvis, absolutely. We should get something good for Obi, I think. Like a guy that was the 8th overall pick just 3 years ago, like last night, shot 50% from 3, plus 19. Team high. Shout out Obi Toppin in his 16 minutes was a team high 19 plus and 5 points on efficiency, 2 of 4 and 1 of 2 from the line. So, yep. The issue is everyone's wanting to evaluate the Obi right now. When you trade for an Obi, you're trading for the upside of what you think Obi can be, right? You're trading for the upside, This was a dude in college who was the number 1 option on a team and has shown potential to be able to shoot the 3 ball already and hasn't been in a system that's good for him, pick and rolling and all of that, seeing what he can do. Now, I do feel he definitely has a certain ceiling. He's not going to be no isolation heavy guy in terms of playmaking and wowing you with dribble moves. But for a team rebuilding, it's definitely intriguing for him. Yep. Yeah, Nick Yak. That's how Grimes does shoot the free throws as well, from chest to shooting in one motion. Yeah, it's like grease lightning, man. It's very, very quick as well. But I guess whatever feels comfortable for the guy, it just didn't come off last night. He was 1 of 6 from 3-point land as well. So again, he wants to be our starting wing, starting shooting guard long term, and we're to compete with these big boys. We need Quentin Grimes efficient from the 3-point line, right? RJ Barrett outshot him from the 3-point line as well. Let that sink in. Jalen Brunson outshot him from the 3-point line as well. So we know Grimes' potential. I'm not getting on him. I'm just saying we need to start seeing that consistency from here on out. We know Grimes' floor, and we want to see him get closer and closer and closer to a ceiling right now. Those big moments, though, he'll learn from being in that situation. Nick, salute. Who's to say after all of this that Obi wants to stay with the Knicks? Great point. One that I've made as well in the past. Obi has to think about his future in the league. He has an opportunity to get a nice payday, and playing under Timbs won't get it done. Yeah, you completely agree, 100% with that situation, man. Another situation where he was drafted by his hometown team, which is bittersweet because he wanted all of that smoke in New York, fan favorite. He's had his name serenaded at MSG before, crying on draft night, having his mum in the crowd, his family. I think his brother Jacob's going to get drafted soon. All of that stuff. But you're right, you got to think about your business and the career ahead. I think a team can sell him, get him excited on a different role right now. We're not seeing any evolution with Tom Thibodeau right now. It's pound the rock heavy with Brunson, Randle, and RJ's usage as well. So, maybe it doesn't even come into the picture so much that the Knicks don't believe in a future with Toppin. It could just be a numbers crunch in terms of usage, like I said, I mean, Brunson, Randle, and RJ in their usage, right? There's only so much usage after them you could distribute. Quentin Grimes luckily can play off ball, catch and shoot. Mitchell Robinson doesn't need the ball. Doesn't play on the ball, plays off the ball right now. Quickley's effective on the ball, right? That's 4 guys heavy on ball, and Grimes your other guy off ball. So yeah, with Toppin, it's just a numbers situation now in terms of usage. 16 minutes, 20 minutes, however many minutes he gets, he's not going to get that many touches. Even if Obi played 25 minutes, he'd probably still get 7 shots only. If we're keeping it real, he had 4 shots in 16 minutes. Even if he played 23 minutes, he probably wouldn't shoot more than 7 times. Well, so that's not enough for an 8th overall pick. With that, I'm on board with just seeing what we can get. Not that I rush it. If there's nothing of any value, I keep Obi out there. But if there is a trade of value, then you've got to heavily think about it with that. The front office messed up drafting a non-rim protecting big man if they were going to hire Tibbs. Yeah, another situation where, lack of communication. Yeah, with that. Also needs versus fit. We always have this debate when the draft comes up, and we'll be doing it again because the Knicks will have so many limited roster spots. But do you draft on fit, or do you just draft on best player available? And no doubt the Knicks just drafted best player available. They were excited. When Obi slipped, I was excited. I'm like, yeah, we could get this kind of talent at number 8. But it gives you cause for pause because, it's all good to draft off potential and talent. But if there's no fit on your team, that's interesting. Right now, he's just going to be sitting on the bench, man. Also, yeah, the same situation with Cam, right? Yeah, the Cam trade on talent alone looked sexy. It got everyone excited. But, Tom Thibodeau didn't see the fit, even though we could kind of see the fit. He saw Alec Burks as a better fit. They gave RJ the bag. Maybe that changed things a lot too, you know. Let's not forget that, ladies and gentlemen. Not a lot of people have brought up this point, but was part of the Cam trade in the back of Leon's mind potential insurance in case RJ Barrett was going out in a spider deal, or if RJ Barrett never got re-signed, did they just take that swing on Cam just in case a spot was going to open up? And of course, they re-signed Barrett, and that means, bench minutes for Cam. Yeah. If we get rid of Obi, who will be Randall's backup? Yeah, that's going to be interesting too. I like to see RJ play a bit of small ball 4. I would like to see us see if we can get Bobby Portis back, at some point. But I do like the stretch 4 element as well. With Quickley and Barrett playing minutes together off the bench, I like a 4 who can stretch it. To me, the obvious thing is Jericho Sims is that future backup C, and I think we need a 4 who can stretch it. Barrett can play minutes with the bench too, for his usage, I think. Yep. Yeah, who knows, man? If we're talking to the Bucks, maybe we could try to expand this trade a bit more. I think Portis is a situation. Mook Morris, I think the salary is going to be tricky, but yeah, the salary actually matches with Fournier too. So that's interesting, man. We might have to obviously sweeten that with the Clippers. And let me check the score now between the Heat and the Magic right now. And look at that, man. In the blink of an eye, the Miami Heat are 5 points in the lead. 6 points in the lead now, 95-89 with 4 to play. So Orlando Magic, whether they're tanking or let their foot off the gas, the Heat have taken over, man. Adebayo, Jimmy Buckets, Max Strauss, Oladipo, Caleb Martin, a lot of depth on the Miami squad, man. Duncan Robinson ain't even playing as well. Let that sink in. Their draft pick, Nikola Jovic, ain't playing either. So it does look like the Heat are going to take that one, but that's just for the standings watch. I think tomorrow, huge game. Tonight in Brooklyn. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's pull up the road ahead now. With Brooklyn, by the way, this is the road to the All-Star break, right? After Atlanta, the Knicks have a 8-9 day break, which has come at a great time. We just got to get through this stretch on screen right now. From Brooklyn all the way to ATL. This is going to get us through to the All-Star break right now. We're going to predict some records right now. And I'm predicting a big win like Ron did also. We got to beat down Brooklyn now with no KD. He's always talking smack right now. I'm sick of it right now. They got Kyrie and some role players. So they're ripe for the picking right now. Julius Randle can further enforce his all-star bid. With that said, I think Randle on national televised games, he's going to get juiced. Barclays, we know it, man. Get them back one. Remember the 2 years ago, Kyrie Irving tipped the ball. Julius Randle rising up in the final moment, caught the ball again, and they called a travel. Let that sink in, man. I haven't forgotten that game when Julius Randle was about to shoot the game winner, and Kyrie tipped the ball as well. That's a legal play. And I think, Randle got chippy that game as well. He's going to get into it with national spotlight again. Huge buzz coming off a monster game with 37 points, 2 posters on the Celtics, 9 rebounds, 6 of 7 free throws, 5 of 13 3 balls, and shooting 13 of 25 efficiency as well, right? He was on another level, was Julius. Yeah, and I think he's going to make that statement. So I'm predicting a win. Now the Lakers one coming into MSG, LeBron is short of the Kareem record, I think. So that's going to be out of reach. But we know LeBron, man, he doesn't like to miss those games at MSG, right? We've got Rui Hachimura now and a lot of trade talks going on. So let's see. I think they'll continue to sit Fournier, Rose, and Cam. Let's see, fam. I did mention Milwaukee before. Since I just mentioned Derrick Rose's name, there's been reports previously that the Bucks are interested in a guy like Derrick Rose. Insurance bid, the veteran presence, stability, maybe off the bench. Maybe that could be proposed, and we could expand the trade talks with Milwaukee. What do you guys think about that? We get Derrick Rose close to Chicago. We get him on a team where he could maybe win a ring, before his time's up. Milwaukee's not a real threat for us. They're not a division. They're not a division rival. None of that. I wouldn't be against giving Milwaukee some help with Derrick. If we can expand that deal. Let's see. There's also talk that Milwaukee is also happy to include Nick Killer Jordan Nwora. I haven't seen much of him lately, but Jordan Nwora is a dude off the bench who's killed some teams. He comes off with a green light. He can stroke it. Let's see. I thought that was interesting, maybe Grayson Allen, Jordan Nwora. And let's see. But with that said, I can also see the Knicks pulling out a tough one against LA, but I'll take a split in the next 2. So let's say we just split those for argument's sake. Then another 3 more games at home. The Heat, the Clips, and the Sixers. So with that said, the Clips and the Sixers, I could see us picking off the Clips. The Sixers one's going to be tough. I'd love to get Harden back. Let's get Joel Embiid back for that. So I'm predicting a split again. Then we got Orlando, Philly on the road. Got to take care of that Orlando one, definitely. That's going to be interesting against a good young team coming up. Good matchups there with Bol, Mitch out obviously, Wagner's balling out, Suggs. That's going to be tough, but the Knicks should pull that one out, or should aim to pull that one out. The Philly one, you never know. It's just up and down. And then Utah, Brooklyn, and the Hawks. So you try and beat 2 out of those 3 with that situation. And then maybe you go 1 more game over 500, or you stay at you get 500 throughout this stretch right now. And the Knicks get to the trade deadline, man, 4 games over. I think that'd be a huge success for that. Of course, 1 more week where Mitchell Robinson can heal up, and maybe Mitch is back after that situation with the All-Star break. The Knicks get 9 days off. 9 days off, which is going to be great. Great for guys, who need a rest. Barrett and Grimes are most likely to get a break. Brunson, we don't know. And Randle, of course, will probably be in the All-Star game. But that's light work these days, Randle will be a reserve. With that said, I haven't seen no confirmation with Obi and Sims in the dunk contest. Maybe that's not finalized yet. Let's see. But yeah, man, that's the road ahead, fam. I think it's come at a great time because these guys are pretty gassed. We've got the trade talk happening. I think we're going to make a move, make some upgrades, and the players will get a breather. Brunson 40 minutes last night, Barrett 40 minutes, Grimes 38 minutes. I mean, it's quite funny actually, ironic that Randle was the second least guy in minutes in the starting unit last night. So yeah, he did get an opportunity to sit for a minute, and I think the bench produced. So that's been key. The Knicks have lost a lot of these games to start the fourth with Brunson and with Randle sitting. Will salute. LeBron's about to be 100 points from the record when they come to New York. Expect him to go hell for leather for it, man. Yeah, facts, right? You'll be trying to get to triple overtime, fam. Imagine that, man. You probably pay someone off to get that. What do you think about Rose, Hartenstein, and protected first for Terrence Mann and Arco? Rose, Hartenstein, and protected first, man. I like that. Nice one, Jarvis. Yeah, you're talking about a surplus in OKC. Yep. Well, sorry. That's Terrence Mann, not Trey Mann. Yeah, Terrence Mann with the Clips. Yep. Yeah, that's a nice young piece and a defensive guy. Yeah, let's see. One thing's for sure, if they do want Hartenstein back, they know what they get in him. They know the Knicks aren't using him. They know they are misusing him. I think that's the lure of getting him back. Nick Yak would like to see a move with straight up with Obi and Jovic from Miami, 6'10", 3 guy with handles. Yeah, untapped potential. Look at that. Yeah, and I think Dirty alluded to that Jovic was playing recently, but he got hurt. Yep, that's interesting. The Heat are always going to be looking for upgrades, but what are they doing with Duncan? He's eating up a mountain of space right now. If Rose doesn't want to be traded, Tibbs and Leon have enough respect to not trade him. Yep, facts, Nick Yak. I completely agree. Rose is one of those guys where I could definitely see him staying, and I'd be okay with that as well. Because, yeah, he's good for the locker room. Doesn't look like he's no malcontent at this point. But, of course, we know the trade deadline's still yet to come. So, is Rose internally holding on to hope that he can get more minutes? I'll give you some percentages. I think Obi traded could be a 50-50. Obviously, Cam Reddish getting traded is a 90. Evan Fournier, I'll probably put Evan Fournier trade at 30% because I think the salary, and just making the numbers work might not happen. And I think it'd be more comfortable bringing Evan back, maybe break glass in case of emergency in the playoffs. You have a guy, a veteran, who can come off your bench and shoot. I think Evan just had a kid. Congrats as well. Maybe he's okay staying in New York City, for the next 8 months. See what's up. So I'll put Evan at 30% that he gets moved, Cam at 90%, and Obi at 50%. And I'll put Derrick Rose at probably maybe 30% as well. Maybe 30 to 35, 40% Rose. Maybe Rose is a different cat. He might not be that, enamored with getting on a contender and winning. Maybe he's more about being in a family environment, being close to home, all of that stuff, Salute Frank. Yeah, OG Anunoby seems to be the best fit for me. That's going to give this team the biggest upgrade. I think that's reasonable. I'd welcome the move in terms of bringing him in. Maybe send Grimes back to the bench. I think we've proven that this squad can compete with some of the best teams. It's going to come down to, man, it's going to come down to what the demand out there is. You know, there's a lot of smoke. There's them leaking ish out. And Masai Ujiri, man, he's not fun to deal with because, you know, he's fleeced teams before as well. What I'm really thinking about is what is Toronto's real goal? You know, their goal to just put him on the block and just to fleece someone? Or are they legitimately thinking about, okay, you know, we're not winning. Let's see what we can get for OG. You know, he's the one that can maybe fetch us the most. But they might just be putting his name out there just to see what they can get. You know, maybe they have no concrete interest in sending him out. But man, I like his game. Ideally, I'd like a wing who could be more deadly at the 3 ball, fam. I think the way Brunson and Randle operate, you know, and can devastate, the way they can kick it out. If we had a 3 guy who's money from the line, from the 3-point line, that's my dream wing with that situation. Like, you know, you could talk about different kind of players, you know, a Mikal Bridges, a Paul George, PG 13. Just somebody that you can't double Randle and you can't double Brunson, you know. You're not going to double Randle and Brunson if Paul George or Mikal Bridges are standing there behind the 3-point arc. You know, that's going to take this starting 5 to the next level. OG's nice. He's locked down, like you said. I just don't know if he's the best 3-point shooter as well. But he's a definite upgrade right now. He's a definite upgrade on Grimes, I think. But Grimes ain't too far away. That's the thing, you know. Are you willing to just ride it out? You know, make bench upgrades and let Grimes, Barrett, Brunson, and Randle cook. You know. Yes, also, fam, with Rose, there's a big upside. Not trading him, and is an expiring 14 milli, fam. Yep. He's a great teammate and a pro's pro. Yep. Facts, man. He could tutor on the bench. He could, you know, tell Brunson a few things in the playoffs. All of that great stuff, man. Knowledge. Rose sitting there is going to be good knowledge as well. And like you hit, the salaries coming off the books, fam. Finally, that dreadful off season of 2020, 2021 off season with Noel, Burks, Fournier, Kemba, Rose, Taj. I think that's it. All of that money. Fournier's got one more year actually, but yeah, all of that money for the others is coming off, man. Yeah, and I'm not in no rush to move Fournier because of that same reason Jarvis said. You know, we have 18 milli from Fournier coming off next year. And think about it, in the summer, draft night, trade deadline next year, that's going to be a nice salary movement, is Evan. And the way Evan's talking in the media, yes, he's going to say that he loves to play. He would ideally like to play, but he doesn't come across as like, this is it. You get me out of here. You know, I need to get out of here ASAP. He's kind of like, man, I could kind of stomach staying around for half a year more, and then see. Let's see. You know, maybe having the kid. You know, it's tough. You know, his kid's just born a week ago. You know, if he's traded, he's got to move cities, then he's not going to see that kid no more unless everybody gets uprooted from New York. Yep. Defensively, it would be scary, Frank. You hit OG, you know, the looks we could have, the type of defense we could have, the swarming, the closing out, obviously containing the other wing penetration last night. Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown had an off night, but Tatum was penetrating, you know, bullying, getting to the cup. And yeah, he bullied Grimes a few times as well. think about it, we could see the likes of the KDs in the playoffs, you know, the Giannis's in the playoffs, and the Tatums, these other wings, man. And like I mentioned to Dan tonight at the start of the show, check that out if you haven't yet. And I was talking to him about the situation with, you know, with OG and just being able to take on that load, you know, guarding the best player, like you said. For the rest of the team, it would take a lot of pressure away. You know, Quentin Grimes' size, he does get bullied. Yeah, as well. But yeah, we out here rocking out on Friday night, Saturday morning Knicks. The streets are buzzing, smashing that like button. We had Dan FAVALE, Ron Cleveland up in here. Post game tomorrow after Brooklyn, picking up another win, hopefully. But yeah, last night, super impressive on the road. The Knicks are 15-10 on the road, which is, you know, you look back on this season and that just says this season in a nutshell, you know, how crazy it's been, how inconsistent. 12 of 13 at home so far. Do we inch above 500 at home? Let's hope. Because with this schedule coming up and the toughest schedule in the NBA to close the season out, getting above 500 record at home is going to be paramount. You know, we can't keep winning these games on the road, man. It's going to be super tough. And with that said, I'll look at the final Heat score with the Magic tonight. And the Heat finally pipped them 110 to 105, right? So the Heat come from behind to snatch that late win. And the Heat now they'll go to one game over ahead of the New York Knicks and stay in sole sixth as well, with that big matchup coming up with the Knicks soon. With that said, a couple of national games coming up, then we got beat the Heat. That's going to be huge. Will says it's really mind-blowing. We have 30 mil in what we thought was going to be rotation pieces. Man, say that again. Yep, that makes you wonder, man. Yep, definitely. All that salary. Yep. Even the effective pieces we could have still, if we didn't get Fournier, but we kept Alec Burks, right? We're talking about bench upgrades. We all know the Knicks had the best bench in the league with Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickley, and Alec Burks. Yep. Imagine if we still had Alec Burks coming off our bench instead of Fournier. With that situation, it'd be crazy. I'm not too worried about Nerlens Noel, even though I'm not the biggest Hartenstein guy right now. But I'm glad Nerlens Noel ain't here. In terms of offensively, he hurts you. Defensively, he was decent, but couldn't stay healthy, you know. But yeah, this Orlando one's tricky too, man. That's going to be tough coming up. They're building a nice young team. OKC as well. With that said, though, like I mentioned, when you rebuild, you've got to do it smartly in terms of flipping assets quickly if you need, because you're stacking up suddenly now a stacked roster of talent, and you can't play them all, right? So that's why we're starting to see maybe OKC in trade talks, Orlando Magic trade talks, Toronto Raptors trade talks, you know. A lot of pieces that they can't all play right now. Gary Harris. We mentioned Mo Bamba now with Bol breaking out. Terrence Ross, you know, with that situation. And of course, their other guy, yeah, Terrence Ross, Gary Harris, Mo Bamba. And, you know, maybe OKC make some moves as well. Grimes and RJ, yeah, that's our Achilles right now, the size. I think Grimes can disguise it at times. RJ can disguise it. but for the long haul, it's tough with the size difference. I think. With that said, I think that's why Tom Thibodeau and the New York Knicks front office are really looking into this OG situation. Best believe that. I think that is real. To the level of their interest, nobody knows yet, but they are interested, Make no mistake about it. There's a reason the Knicks have accumulated all these picks, right? It's not to draft all these players. No, no, no. It's to see what you can get, right? Continue to top up this roster with some of these picks, One thing I do hope is that we keep all of our own selections. I like the Dallas one in this draft because that looks like it's going to be teens, maybe, and a great pick. But the Washington, Milwaukee pick, the Detroit pick, man, they're borderline worthless. It's to a certain degree, and if you can bundle all of them to get a guy who's going to be in your starting five, that's something worth considering. Maybe they want a sweetener. Let's see. Yep. Salute, Philip. What's good? And Jay in the house. How do you feel about 2 guaranteed firsts and 2 second rounders and Cam for OG? We let Rose go in the summer and sign KP to a 2-year, 20 mil situation, man. It's going to be interesting with KP. I think he'll want a longer term deal. But KP at 20 mil, I could stomach that. Yep. Definitely the way he's playing, Jay. But I did see a report today that Washington is interested in keeping their core 3 together with Beal, Kuz, and KP. But they're going to have to spend to keep those 3 intact. KP keeps talking about the New York Knicks, man. I think he'd be open to a New York Knicks reunion. But yeah, in terms of the OG situation, I'd be okay trading those protected picks for those other teams' protected picks for OG. But yeah, man is the buzz growing and growing and growing with that situation. It's on fire right now. Julius Randle has matched his MIP season with 15 30-point games, right? He's going to be in elite Knicks company. You see the names below. Patrick Ewing with the highest total, 36 right now. I think Randle can easily get to 25. Brunson could probably get you to 20, maybe 15. But the way Julius Randle's scoring, attacking, getting fouled, getting easy points at the line, he's a walking 30-point bucket right now. That said, those that missed it as well, Walt Perrin, Knicks international scouts out there on screen in Australia right now, scouting, along with the Brooklyn Nets GM right now. So they're seriously looking at some first-round talent that's playing overseas as well. Walt Perrin's done some work so far. Also, talk that he drafted Grayson Allen with the Utah Jazz as well. So keep an eye out on that when it comes to a Milwaukee New York Knicks trade for Cam Reddish. I think Walt Perrin obviously has that familiarity with Grayson. Yep. With that said, we had Dan Favale on earlier in the show. We chopped up the trade deadline and what's been a success so far this season. He thinks the Knicks floor is 8th as well. I agree. I think the Knicks are looking to be 8th or above, and it's been a success so far for me. Winning these tough games, though, and closing out better is going to be key, and not gassing these guys out. On the back of a crazy all-star season from Julius and Brunson's first year as a Knick, right? We've got to get these guys' minutes down, and let's get Quickley's minutes up. Let RJ continue to play big minutes. Let's play bolster the bench, right? So we're not losing leads at the start of the 4th, end of the 3rd. We're up 10 like we were last night, with 3 to 4 minutes to go. And man, did we crumble. again. And like I hit on as well, smart defense as well. Don't foul when you're stopping the clock and there's 3 to 4 minutes left and you're trying to protect the lead. Don't give up the and ones. So that's been huge, right? Jalen Brunson fouled Jalen Brown, and Randle coming over to the help side, he smashed Robert Williams under the bucket, right? It was a basic layup. There's no need to do that right now. That just heightened the woes, in the words of Clyde, like he said, man, as well. Just give up the two and be done with it as well. So that was great having Dan on. More guests coming, ladies and gentlemen, as the thick of the season's coming. We all buzzing. Smash that like button. Yeah, the Knicks got that big win on national TV. Now tonight, another national TV game. Look out for Julius Randle to ball out once again. He's got a chip when it comes against Brooklyn, right? He hasn't forgotten that Kyrie folly with the ref 2 years ago when it was called a travel call. And I'm looking for Julius, and improved Julius now, to take that next step, lead us to a victory with the rest of the guys. Let's see. The Knicks are starting games really well. Last night we held in there in the first quarter. I think it's the end of the third, start of the fourth, that when the other team tightens the screws, the New York Knicks can go into a shell. Ball movement stops. Dudes get shook. All of that stuff, right? Keep moving the ball. Keep swinging it. Get the defense moving as well, because that could tire them out. Yeah. Keep the buzz coming. And after that big win with that situation, we've obviously got all these trade talks coming now. Grayson Allen, I think, would be a solid move for what we can get back. I'm not giving up anything, of what's been asked for Caruso. OG, I talked about. I think it's worth exploring for a few protected firsts. Looks like Levine will stay. Looks like Duarte's on the block, but very inconsistent. Reggie Bullock doesn't excite me, right? I want this bench to get more multi-dimensional. With that said, I think Grayson Allen coming in, is a better fit with that, better shooting. Josh Richardson, if there's a buyout, if there's a second round pick, I'd be in on those stakes with Josh Richardson. Let's see. And other names we have coming through. Dan mentioned Malik Beasley tonight. That'd be a nice fit. I think the Knicks front office has had interest in Malik. I think Gary Trent is a name to watch, but he would command probably a first round selection as well. Let's see. Kuz is most likely going to stay. Phoenix are whack for their demands for Jay Crowder. Let that sink in. They want a promising young rotation player and a pick for Jay Crowder, a guy they're not even playing. Right, let that sink in. Now, if Terrence Ross, T. Ross, is bought out or a second round pick, sign me up. Josh Green, I like. Doug McDermott, the same thing. So plenty of names, man. There's plenty of value that could be had, with this situation. Yeah. The only thing that could save us with these small threes is the league went so small. Yeah, completely agree with that. Jarvis says the Knicks could contact New Orleans about one of their 3 big wings. Yep. Did you guys hear also that Bones Highland is available, ladies and gentlemen? Wing scorer size. But great point, Jarvis, as well. Yep. Let's raid these teams with a surplus. Yep. Yep, like I mentioned, fam. Yep. Good minds think alike. Josh Richardson for a second rounder. There'll be a lot of teams lining up for that, fam. Also, we had reports that the New York Knicks have squashed any phone calls for Deuce McBride. Let that sink in. So the New York Knicks are really valuing young pieces right now. And it's not, the report said it wasn't so much a reflection of the way Deuce is playing now. It's more what they think of Deuce long term. So yeah, there's been some upside with Deuce that they feel, is valuable, worth keeping. Yep. Kaiser's in the house, salute. And it looks like OG could have broke his arm, man. Man. That's the dangers of playing so close to the deadline, man. Let's see what happens, man. Prayers up first and foremost. But looks like he just fell, probably broke his arm playing the Warriors right now. Yep. I've been saying we need to offer something for Trey Murphy. Yep. That's what we need, man. Size. What do you think of Bones? We don't need a Bones here, but he's a huge fan favorite. Yeah. Will. Apparently they're looking at veteran win now help, in a Bones move, so they could try to get Joker and that Jamal Murray's first chip, I can understand, you're so close, your window's wide open. Sometimes you just do got to go all in, man. Push all your chips in the middle of the table because, you got Joker and you got Jamal, in their primes, man. And the West is no joke right now, man. Like I also spoke to Dan tonight, in terms of the C spot, the backup, I think we could just hold tight, or we sign a guy off waiver or buyout, second round pick / free agent or buyout. But because, Sims, Hartenstein, let's say Mitch is out 3 more playing weeks. We got the week off with the All-Star break. And I think we might be able to get through it unscathed, with this stretch on TV you see right now, from Brooklyn to ATL, right? We could easily split maybe 1 game below this stretch and make it to the deadline, to the break over 500. Yep. Nick Yak high on Deuce, man. No one will end up admitting it, but he will be a better player than Quickley. So very, very high on Deuce, man. He's getting his shine. He's getting opportunities, man. This salute John, and yeah, this name is always connected to Tibbs, Jimmy Butler. I mentioned the OG thing, man. While Tom Thibodeau's here, best believe he knows his job is up on the line, and he wants to win right now. So look for any win now piece, because Tom Thibodeau wants to try and win right now, right? He senses his team can compete as well, which gets even more scary because, we could beat the Celtics on different nights, but he knows we need help. 7-game series, the New York Knicks are still going to need much, much help to beat the Cavs, the Nets, the Bucks, Sixers, Celtics, the Heat. It's going to be a dogfight right now. I keep saying we need toughness as well. Butler brings toughness. OG brings toughness. Jay Crowder, Grayson Allen, these kind of guys, just dudes that aren't going to back down right now. Yep. We need dudes that won't back down. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, length, size. Also, yeah, we talked about with Rokas recently. Jarvis. I think Rokas is playing nicely overseas, but he's still 1 to 2 years away from, I think, wanting to come down. Fam, his minutes are up and down, but he's growing. His pick and roll play is excellent. He's a heady guy. He's a pro getting reps. I could see the Knicks either throwing him into a package, whether it's just the throw in to get the deal done, or they just want to keep his draft rights, fam, and bring him in when he's good, when he's ready. I think maybe we make a huge splash, a huge trade. We need to trade some dudes. And then it's like you're bringing in a brand new free agent signing, with Rokas as well. Salute Vaughn up in the house. Appreciate you. Let's go. Been on the grind. Yeah, I can appreciate you, man. Everyone out here doing their thing. It's been a crazy season, a long grind, but we here, Knicks Nation, the best fan base in the streets and the best chat in the biz right now. You guys know what it is. Yeah, OG situation, man. Prayers up. We've got Jarvis in the house, Ron Cleveland, man, chopping things up tonight. More buzz to come. But yeah, for a lot of people, it's our favorite time of year because, we could be getting a shiny new toy and get this thing going for this season right now with the road ahead coming up, right? The Knicks have the second toughest schedule. We've got Julius, Randle and Brunson, all-stars, borderline all-stars, but gassed right now, 40-plus minutes nightly. Right, that's not going to last for too long, man. So, yeah, I really feel like Tom Thibodeau is going to have a huge influence on this front office and try to strike maybe while the iron's hot right now. So many names available right now, and some of them for cheap. Like, if I told you a year or two ago that Terrence Ross, Malik Beasley, Josh Richardson could all be available for a second-round pick, Doug McDermott for a second-round pick, that'd be crazy. Now, some guys are overpriced as well. That's just how it is. It comes down to the deadline and how much of it is smoke, how much of it is these teams are really willing to move them. Stanley, salute. Knicks need a Cam type of guy, wing, who can shoot, though. It's too bad Cam and Tibbs couldn't reconcile. Yeah. I think we'll find out eventually, man, what the legit gripe was with. Yeah, with that said, I think in the beginning, Tibbs may not have been for it because he liked Alec Burks. Maybe he believed in Quentin Grimes a lot to take those minutes. Either way, there's been a lack of communication. You gave Evan Fournier 18 milli the year you drafted Quentin Grimes. So there's been double ups all over. With that said, so many double ups in that situation. Like I said, with Will's great point tonight, let's say the Knicks never gave Evan Fournier that money right now. We would have that much left with Derrick Rose to spend. We could legit pay Kyle Kuzma right now if we wanted to. We could legit pay someone else if we did. Yeah, if you guys see more, let me know with the OG thing. But prayers up, man. That's just awful for him. Awful for the Raptors. Just awful timing. With that said, let's hope it's not too serious. Not serious at all. With that said, we want to see players healthy as well. Yes, we all got the streets buzzing, man, from the chat worldwide to New York City, coast to coast. Appreciate you guys all rocking out. We're close to the All-Star break. We'll be doing more post games. My man EJ got some personal things to take care of as well. Shout outs to EJ. He'll be back at some point after he's taken care of fam and some things going on. But prayers up and salute to everyone out here. We've got more guests lined up. We've got some draft talk coming in, fam. We'll be talking to some people about the draft class. Yep, coming in. And that's going to be fun. Also, I want to let you guys know about the other thing going on, which is the channel NBA Buzz, ladies and gentlemen. There's more buzz as well. Always been my intention to do more NBA-centric content around the draft, around the trade deadline, interacting with all fans, just hoop junkies as well. I've been pouring all my time in the Knicks channel as well, so I hadn't quite launched the NBA Buzz channel as of this point, but best believe it's going to be popping off very, very soon. So definitely cop that subscription, like and subscribe. It's youtube.com/@NBA Buzzin'. We'll have more NBA-centric guests, talking about other teams and things going on around the league, just spitballing. And I will also be doing a call-in shows as well. Live stream call-in shows everything you can think of right now as well. So yeah, if you love the content so far on the channel, you just love chopping things up as well. You got Knicks and you got other NBA talk right now coming off. Man, that's it. Yeah, I'm also a fan of Herb Jones, Vaughn as well. Yeah, shooting, defense as well. Man, the Pelicans got another fellow Aussie, and Dyson Daniels. Let that sink in. His defense is already elite, Dyson Daniels. So, man, look out for the Pels and the Clippers, and the Pels and the Thunder. With that said, man, as the next team's coming up. Yeah. Look, Gary Trent's the most likely one, Stanley, to get moved from Toronto, but I think he's going to command a first-round pick at least. First-round pick and maybe a piece. Yeah, let's see. Najee Marshall. Yeah, he's a name to watch for as well. He could be available. I think Jordan Nwora in the Bucks deal. He's also, they're willing to put him on the table with Grayson as well. A longer guy off the bench that can shoot with Nwora. So that's going to be interesting, man. Yeah, there's so much going on right now around this league, right? Of course, the All-Star stuff coming up. And yeah, more guests, like I said. But let's get ready to wrap this thing up for tonight. It's been a great show, chopping this thing up with the best fan base in the biz, the best chat out there. Let's go. Let's keep it buzzing right now. Smash that like button, and we'll continue to talk about it. Rest assured, man, more content coming, more big game hunting from these New York Knicks, and the chat's out here on fire. As always, keep it on lock. We'll shout everyone out on the outro. Will, appreciate you. Let's go. Great thoughts tonight. Prayers up to OG, and thanks for some of the jewels you've dropped tonight. Yeah, having fun with this situation. It's Friday night, Saturday morning. Get on your grind. Enjoy the weekend. Big game tonight at Barclays, ladies and gentlemen. New York City, we here. We own the place. Yep. No doubt about it. All over the place. And we'll be live after the game. See you then. Salute. 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 Let's go. Knicks making upgrades. Yeah, we out here. Looking for more big wins like last night. Young players stepping up. That's what you want to see, ladies and gents. So let's go. Peace.